Very good. It's 7:08 on Wednesday night, January 10th, 2024. I'm Andy Fulton, the Chair of the Conservation Commission. We have a full slate of members tonight. From my right, we have Zuzu, Mark, Sherry, myself, and to my left, Steve, Mike, and Ray. And we have a full agenda. We have a full audience, which is a rare thing for us. But I'd like to take front and center a request to consider an easement on the Eastman Conservation Area Town Forest along the driveway. So come on up, Bill, and introduce yourself at the podium.
Hang on, for the record, I got to recuse myself. So, friends of Bill and Joe.
And just state your name and address, run it from there.
I'm Bill Marcotte, my wife Jill. We recently purchased a property at 139 Concord Stage Road, map 202, lot 101. We intend to build a single-family house for ourselves, and I was looking for an easement to install two utility poles to get power to the property. Only one of the poles would actually be on town property. The other one would be on the land itself. And basically, at the selectmen's meeting, they didn't have a problem with it, but they wanted your input before they approved.
Fair enough.
I do have,
So we have a plan in front of us showing existing poles to an existing residence on Lot 2. And this is adding 2 poles to get to Lot 1. And that's the extent of the build-out on the driveway into Eastman. Beyond that is town forest. Any comments or questions from the commission on this proposal?
there would be very limited impact, zero to negative impact on any trees that have to come down to that, anything to that effect.
Yeah, any handle? I mean, a few maybe, but you're not sure?
Well, maybe,
As far as-
maybe 2.
Yeah. So that's a lot less than what was marked out there before you purchased the place, right?
Right. I
It
think
looked
they were
like a-
talking, I think they were talking 3 poles before.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, this came out to 2 with 160 feet
Yep.
to the first one and 160 to the second. And their maximum is 200 feet between poles.
And there's currently one span of wire that, between poles, that does cross the driveway now?
Correct.
So there's no change or no lessening of overhead
No.
than what's there already?
No.
Looks legit to me. Any thoughts, concerns, opportunity to weigh in? There being none, I'd say thank you, Bill, for bringing us to bringing this to our attention. I'd have one other comment, unrelated, but I would request in any future plowing you do to get into your property that you try to refrain from pushing a big pile into the driveway beyond you.
Right.
As that is an access into the town forest. And if you find in doing that in the future that you would be better served by pushing a little bit further down to the landing, then that sounds perfectly legitimate too.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Look forward to being good neighbors.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And if you guys want to hold on to, you can, or we can pass them back. Okay, or we can file them as, please.
Yeah, I think that would need to sign off on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're here now, we can go inside.
I think based on what you guys did the other night, please do, yes, thank you, Ricky.
Finish that?
Yep,
Ricky Hipple, Chair of the Board of Selectmen. Yeah, the board did see this. We didn't have any complaints when Bill offered to move it, the last pole onto his property. It was kind of a no-brainer for us, but we did want to run it by you guys where it is, you know, access to that town forest and the easement and everything, so. But consensus was we were gonna be okay with it as the five, so I'll sign it.
it sounds perfectly good to me for have you do that, so
All right.
thank you.
All right, and I'm gonna, from this, I'm gonna open the Board of Selectmen meeting. There's three of us here. But I do ask Sherry when the time comes to discuss that you come to us.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a quorum without you, so.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you sign this one? Does it matter?
I would just, whatever,
I'll sign your copy.
whatever works for Bill.
Oh, I'll sign your copy.
With that, we're all set with the Marcotts, and Steve, why don't you come on back? And we've got a request that came in the other day from Hopkinton Land Clearing and Forestry. And I would ask the representative from the company to come forward and speak to that. This is a request to have a joint meeting with the Conservation Commission and the Board of Selectmen, so you guys okay for a run, or shall we hold for just a few seconds?
No, we're good. Just if we're gonna talk about it, we need a quorum, so.
No, pick it up.
for Sherry. We'll give her back.
Gotcha. Yep. So for the record, Sherry Burdick is stepping down from the commission for this hearing and will be a member of the Board of Selectmen, making a three-person quorum of the five-person board, having Ricky and Salem and Sherry present on that. So I'm going to step down because you've got a proposal on a request on a parcel that abuts my property. So we're going to keep the musical chairs going. I'll hand the meeting over to Vice Chair Nager.
Okay, if you could just tell us who you are and then go through the,
John King. I've worked for Hopkinton Forestry for many years. What we're trying to do is gain access to the Clement property, which is map 401, lot 91. In order for us to do that, we have to go through town property, which is map 96 and map 92. Very short spot on 92. What we're proposing is to put in a road and a landing, which at the end of our operation could be turned over to the town for access to their town piece. Landing could be a parking lot. What we would do is borrow material. There's a borrow pit right by where the landing was going to be located. I've walked out in there. Use the borrow pit with some material and make sure it's in good shape when we're done so that the town has access to that property.
do you have maps or anything? or-
I have a few maps, yes. I don't have enough to give to everybody.
Okay.
This is the lot right here that we're going after. Clement property, this is town properties. These two are also town, I believe.
Right, so we're talking about Bard and the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. This is the length of what our skid trail would be. This is the Clement property, Arden. And this is the length of the road and the landing area. So we're looking at 450 feet going in, building a landing, and then 2,000 feet to get to the property that we're gonna cut.
Okay, now, are you, you can go back over there if you want, just so everybody can hear you. Thanks. Here's the maps, anybody wants to look at them.
Can I just add one thing? There was an old access road from the town, but it's now, sorry. Part of why we're requesting this is.
Can you
that-
introduce yourself,
Hi,
please?
my name's Amelia Gardner. I'm with
Ma-
Hopkinton Forestry Products.
Hey, Amelia.
Part of why we're coming with this request is that the town road access that used to be there is now a beaver pond.
So we're having to think outside of the box to be able to get to this property. We've been working with this landowner for a couple years, trying to figure this out. So this is just the best solution that we could come up with, and we're trying to work with the town in hopes to maybe create something that would be useful for the town as well.
So as far as the design on this, I mean, has a forester laid this out, or is this just conceptual from,
Hasn't been anything laid out,
Oh.
this is just stuff that I've done.
okay. Yeah, we'll open it up for questions here from the commission.
Yeah, so you have the proposed skidder bridge there.
Yep,
You've walked the property, you said.
Correct.
It's pretty wet back there.
it is.
How
The good thing
large-
about it is if you stay to the left-hand side of the property, looking at it from the street, it turns from a swamp into a brook that has banks on both sides, which is what's required when you put a skidder bridge in. So we've spent some time out there walking to find the best spot. That's what makes our skid so long.
Other questions? So I'm pretty familiar with the property, and I guess, you know, some of the concerns, I think you kind of hit that's a pretty big crossing back there. It's a good-sized stream coming out. I know the hill, I mean, the exact you know, I guess this is just conceptual. Do you know where so you've got that Skidder Trail side slope in the hill on the other side, I guess that's on the west side of the property, and then I know there's quite a significant stone wall on the boundary on most of that. Does that skid trail go through that wall, or is it?
It goes through this wall here into this piece.
There's
There's
a
no-
wall here, but I don't know
There's a
about.
wall there,
Yeah.
but nothing here.
Nothing there, but there's a
Correct.
wall there.
Correct, and this
Okay.
is the piece, yeah, so that wall would be taken down and then put back up.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the only, the other kind of different thing about this is the idea of, so with the log landing itself and the truck access, that's not really kind of sketched out on the map here.
Not really, but it would have to be, the access that's there now that goes up into the first yard, is access from the center of town. The access that we would put in would be from both directions.
So a new driveway?
It'd be the existing spot, it would just have to be opened up a little bit more so traffic can go left and right.
Like a wider apron.
Yeah, because that thing angles in there it's steep and it angles in pretty significantly. Yeah, I mean, I guess my feeling on it, and this would just be an idea, is, to visit it with a site walk, and every other project we've done something like this in New Hampshire, licensed forester's been involved, and, I think, I would suggest to the commission that something this significant to look at it, merits that level of professionalism. And kind of that's our field in forestry, and that's sort of the working professional level. So it looks like we've got at least one wetland notification that would be involved. We've got a pretty significant maybe cut and fill, and then there's also some timber that would have to be assessed for the town that would have to be cut on the roads
Yes.
and in the landing itself.
Yep.
So those are just things to think about if it's worth it, but, I would suggest that would be the next step when the snow's off. And we also are in a position right now, we're recompeting our licensed forester agreement, so for our own forestry representation, we kind of made a commitment not to, get involved with any new projects. I mean, hopefully, by the time, we're assessing this thing, we would be at that stage where awarding this, so I guess we'll have to talk with the selectmen how they would approach that on our end, not your forester, but if we had a forester look at what was proposed.
Yep.
Not sure it would be, who it will be. So, any thoughts on that? I mean, I think it would merit, a site walk with a licensed forester and development of a plan. And open it up in a minute, Ricky, for the commission.
Anything to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just coming to it with, I'm looking at this as a conceptual idea, but you'd need some professionals to draw up some real maps before I'd be comfortable giving the okay.
Okay.
What's our time frame that you're looking for this?
Well, it'd be nice to do it in the winter.
Yeah.
Obviously with the ground froze, not that it is right now, but it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Amelia said, we've been working on this property for a couple of years now, you know, trying to get access to it. We've come in off Craney Hill and been shut down there. And that would also be worse if we went Craney Hill way, because that whole piece would be an uphill skid. When you have an uphill skid, you could potentially have problems with erosion and all that stuff. So coming downhill and through the town piece is actually the most environmentally friendly way to do it. That's what pushed us kind of in this direction.
Yeah, understood, definitely. I mean, I don't see that this winter is realistic, frankly, just because I think it's gonna take some effort. This is a really big deal. I mean, it might help us in the end as far as having a, you know, some access built in there. So, I mean, there could be some benefit. And then I guess the town, you know, working with the selectmen, and Ricky will get up here in a minute, we need to figure out about that, you know, that commitment of resources, whether that's fair to use our gravel for that, or whether you should be bringing your own gravel in, to do this. So that would just need to be a discussion. I don't think we're probably ready to have that tonight, but I would suggest, that, you know, to me, I think, and if everyone agrees, and we'll get Ricky up here and comment, that really the next step would be for Hopkinton to get a, you know, forester involved, get a good, solid conceptual, you know, with showing where the wetlands are, the crossings, the estimate of timber, and then the whole cut and fill calculation, and kind of, and the road itself too, because, you know, I don't know that we definitely have the need right now for any of this, but it's good infrastructure to have from a management perspective, so there could be benefits to it. Should we open up to Ricky, or any other questions from the commission?
So I think this is, again, the way I'm interpreting this, and this is the first that obviously we've heard of it as well, same timeline you guys heard of it, is that basically they've been, in the explanation, they're just trying to find a way in. And if this was gonna be a hard no tonight, then they'd back up and probably leave. But I think, like you said, they're kinda looking for that conceptual, is it possible? And it sounds like you guys are putting you know, obviously a couple of, things you guys wanna find on there. I personally don't have an issue with it. Moving forward, as long as you guys, you know, your I don't wanna say demands, but requests are met. And I agree, I think they should probably bring in their own gravel, which I'm sure they'd be probably more than happy to do, as long as they get access to that piece. So, just my thoughts.
Thank you. I think, you know, we want to treat everyone fairly, and equally. The only difference in the past is, you know, we've already had infrastructure there, so this would be the commission, you know, I know the property, the commission needs to walk it and look at it. So, I mean, if you want to commit that kind of money to bring it to a real conceptual with no guarantees, that's what I would suggest the next step would be. You know, there's not enough here for an up or down, obviously, but it's definitely, it's good to talk about it, for sure. So, yep. Anything else? Or, I mean, I think, you know, if you want to re-engage and let us know and get on the agenda, I would definitely suggest doing the walk when we're snow-free and we've had a chance to look at, to make sure that either the forester or wetland scientist knows how long the crossings are going to be, and look at the grade, and just a rough estimate of what timber is involved. And then maybe kind of map out the landings and map out the, you know, just conceptually, but map out the road reconfiguration. You also have to check with the DOT, where that's a state road, to see if there's anything different with the driveway permits, because I think there's a width, right, on the entrance on a driveway. So if you change that, you would probably have to go for the temporary one for logging, and then maybe put it back.
Either put it back or apply for a permanent one afterwards.
Yeah, if they would let you. I don't know if that's, you know, you get the whole site distance and the, you know, yeah. That's all stuff we'd need to know.
Yeah.
And then we also might have those buildings gone, so I don't know if you considered that instead of,
Well,
We have considered that, because I don't know if any of you guys have been out there, but there are condemned buildings
Yeah.
that need to be addressed, and with the equipment and stuff being there, just proposed that we could be helpful in that sense if that's something that you guys wanted to move forward. I do have another to-scale map with the landing and the roads. We have measured all the roads, and we actually have taken an inventory what we need to cut for the road. So we have that, we can pass along to you. My question too, if you guys are chewing on this, is if this isn't gonna work, what other options do we have? Because this property owner is looking to move on their property and manage their forest. And due to the nice beavers, we don't have access now. So what is the alternative?
I can only speak,
Before we start putting money into
Right.
hiring somebody to come out, I'm assuming you guys would wanna have somebody go out, before we start investing into something. I mean, this taxpayer pays taxes here, so how are we gonna support them, would be my question, too.
I mean, I think what we've asked has been, you know, consistent for this level of a project with kind of the effort. Like I said, we've always had licensed foresters involved whenever there's been an access request, every one of them. And this is, the last request, there was a minor infrastructure improvement, not a huge one like this, so this is kind of a big deal. So, yeah, you know, I don't know, like you've probably explored other options for access, and whoever bought that property, you know, when they bought it or however they got it, I don't know much about it. I mean, you know, when
Yeah,
you
the beavers weren't there yet, so.
yeah, I mean, you know, if that's the only problem is the beavers, I mean, is it easier to get a trapper and,
Remove the dam.
yeah,
We've talked about that, cause the road is there through the beaver pond.
that would be, I mean, to me, that's simple. Yeah, I would definitely do
And is
that.
that something that the Conservation Commission would consider as changing a beaver bog?
We
Just
don't- we-
before we put any,
We don't have purview over that. That's in state law. Yeah, sure. Now whose land is the beaver dam?
that's on the town property now.
Yeah, so that's a good option to explore. I mean, you can call, USDA Wildlife Services,
Yeah.
and talk to them about, you know, like pond levelers to make sure that, you know, if you remove some of the beavers, that you get the thing down at the level below the road. And then you could just, like that road, if that's good access, I mean, you know, your roadbed's there, so that's not a fill as far as a wetland goes, right?
Yeah, no.
Right. So if you haven't explored that, that might be way cheaper and way better.
I have looked at it, some towns are just, I mean, it's town-owned property, so sometimes they're just not interested in changing the natural habitat, wildlife habitat, so.
Well,
That's an ecosystem.
yeah, but that doesn't matter. So if that road is the legal right-of-way to that property, that owner has inherent rights to the access on that road, which would, you know, as far as the beaver management, to maintain their access, that would be totally allowed. I mean, people do that all the time, manage beavers. That's not a big problem.
I agree, just not usually I haven't seen that on a town level, so just 'cause it is the town's property.
Right, but well, no, I mean, it is, right? But it's not, because if that land has ownership, Andy will get you up here in a second, if you have deeded right-of-way through that road, then I would definitely recommend exploring it.
I've done a little bit of exploring on that.
Come on up.
Called
And we
Fish
can-
and Game, and I was asking them about beaver boxes, which is the most sane way to lower the water level in a beaver pond. And I was referred by Fish and Game to the town, because he said it's town conservation property. And he said, I'm not gonna warrant you to do that. So I don't know,
Well,
I
all
don't know
right,
where we stand.
so I don't know if you were catching what I was saying.
Yep.
So, that property, if it wasn't landlocked, and I don't know the history of that property, so you get, you know, you can either read the deed and understand where, you know, if there was an easement through there or not, or get an attorney that's familiar with land use to look at that. And if that property has deeded right-of-way through that road, and I don't know the history of the road, but if that road is, say, a discontinued class, if it's a class 6, which is a discontinued road, or if it's a private right-of-way, if that property inherently has the right to use that road in the deed, that's not just like modifying conservation land, that's an inherent right to access that property through that road that is currently underwater. So problem with just asking Fish and Game general questions is that they're not gonna know the exact deal. And then, so what I was telling you, I mean, there's different agencies that do different things. And so if you do have, it's good to talk to us, right? No matter what. But if you inherently have the right to access through that road, improve it, maintain it, whatever, you could call USDA, or you could call somebody else and deal with the beavers and put like a pond leveler in there or something else, like you said, a beaver box. I mean, there's a lot of different designs, right? They all do the same thing. And tackle that. So that's really worth exploring.
Who would have to pay for that, out of curiosity, with the land?
Come on up.
Just out of curiosity, because then when we're involving, so if we took the beaver dam out, it's on town property, is the town responsible for maintaining access to people's property?
Nope. It's just like, the gentleman that just stood up and talked to us a few minutes ago, has a deeded access through town land. It was a small, really small subdivision. It's a driveway. The town doesn't have to maintain that. That's just a shared driveway. So in your case, I mean, you have to look at like, what is that road, right? You need to find out legally what that thing is. Is that and Andy might know here, we'll get him up in a second. If it's a class 6, then you ask the selectman's permission to modify it. If it was laid out as a private right-of-way before the town got that road, you need to talk to a land use attorney, but you would maintain that road. So the same improvements that you're talking about on, bringing gravel and whatever, you would just do that with that road.
Yeah.
But you would make sure that you want to get people who are authorized to do these things, right?
Yeah, I understand that.
And you want to make sure that you're not creating a new fill in a wetland. So an existing road bed that goes through a wetland is not a new fill, but I would sure talk to a wetland scientist to make sure before I went and did anything that you didn't create a new fill. And a new fill is like going wider or putting something in the wetland that wasn't already there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of complicated, and you really need to talk to a few different professions here. The land use attorney is going to tell you what your rights are for access, if that was the access to that property. And then the wetland scientist is going to tell you, how you would go about maintaining that road. And then the assistance of someone like USDA Wildlife Services or a private trapper would deal with your wildlife problem. And if you look at state statute with beaver management, problem beavers, I mean, that's clearly allowed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then what I would suggest, if you were gonna go that route, you would come back here to talk to us about, say if the trapper needed to be on town land to trap some beavers to facilitate this, then you would just talk to us.
Yeah, because all that's on town.
It's pretty good habitat in there. I know what you're talking, look,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
right off the road, but Andy, can you come on up? I know you're, no, good?
I have questions. Those buildings that have to be knocked down on the bottom land, how far is that from this land here? Is that the access that they could use to get in here?
There's an old road going down through towards the stream bed, but I'm not sure. You'd have to really figure that all out. And I don't know if that's big enough. You guys probably doing a whole tree job, maybe, yeah. So I don't know what kind of chipper. You got one of the like a Malbark, something that's straight on, or is it yeah.
It's a drum chip.
Yeah, not like I don't even know if they still have the tree limbs anymore. They're at like a 90, kind of a 90, yeah.
It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's straight on, which
Yeah.
in the long run saves you space.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, that area might be big enough when those are gone.
I haven't seen any of this property, so I'm just asking out of curiosity.
Yeah, we need to get out there and look at it. I mean, that's a pretty complex, I mean, that's a big road going all the way out through there. You're going the whole way. And plus, like John said, you gotta hook around the actual wetland to do this, but if that other road bed is still there, I mean, that might be way more viable and cheaper.
It's not a deeded right away.
No, if it's not a deeded right away, then
I
you,
believe that was all one piece of property back 1952 was as far back as I went. And I don't believe I'll have to do some more looking, so I don't believe that was a deeded right away. I haven't been able to find it yet. But I do think that was all one piece of property. Yeah, I think it was 1952 that I read that.
see, I don't know when New Hampshire stopped allowing landlocked parcels to be created, but you need to talk to someone to do a title search for you, or really search that, or someone who's good with deeds, I and find out where it was. And then you need to find out what the genesis of that road, like, if that's a Class 6 road, it's, you'd have to call the road agent. They would know if that's a Class 6 road or not, because that's a different deal, right? It's not a right-of-way, it's a road.
Yeah.
So you might not actually be landlocked, you know, if you've got frontage on a road, even though it's a Class 6, you don't lose that access right as the landowner just because it goes to non-maintained. A lot of good research to, this is a kind of interesting one, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. No, it's interesting. It really is. You're trying to solve a, you know, a forestry problem, right? Try to do it the least expensive way, best way environmentally, and turn a profit and do good forest management.
That was the whole point, bringing up the town property.
Yeah.
It's the best thing environmentally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we're on board with, you know, hearing with whatever you come up with, if you wanna make that investment, you know, getting a forester involved and scheduling the site walk.
Sure. If you guys schedule something, will you let me know?
No, you would schedule it. I mean, you,
Want me to
you,
schedule it?
well, you would get your licensed forester, you
Yep.
know, if you are choosing to take that next step.
Yep.
I would explore that road first, me personally.
Mhm.
But, you know, you get your licensed forester, so you know the things we're looking for, you know, it's the exact, you know, the landing area, the timber volumes, that really needs to come from a licensed forester when we start talking, you know, timber volumes and prices and, you know, that kind of thing, because we're obviously gonna get something for that. We typically we've gone two ways on these access agreements. We've charged a price per thousand, or we've kind of traded improvements. So, you know, sounds like, that would be a consideration, right? In the end, what ends up happening. We talked a little bit about the gravel, so that, you know, the company needs to think about, are you gonna do it if you're using your own gravel? Cause that might be, you know, something that we're gonna ask. We've got the outstanding issue on the driveway, and so you gotta talk to the state to see what they're gonna do on that. And then just like, once you got that all together, then, you know, then we would do a site walk. I would suggest, you know, sometime late spring, and then there's no way, you know, I don't see this happening this winter, you know, for a job, but it's just pretty complex, and you only get one chance to do it right, you know?
Yep.
I definitely don't want it to be a mess. And then, yeah, just, you know, I'd wanna know, like, details on what kind of bridge, what, if there are any other crossings, on, you know, how we're gonna leave slopes, road widths, you know, planting, the rock wall you talked about, you know, make sure that, you know, a boundary corner or something doesn't get damaged, obviously, you'd go around that. So, yeah, a lot of, you know,
So
kinda
if
get
the
the,
expenses outweigh the gain, where are we?
that's a business decision, we can't help you with that.
Okay. RSA 231-40 and 42 states that the selectmen have to provide economical access to a landlocked piece of property.
Okay, well, I
So
don't,
if this all falls by the wayside, if there's $30,000 worth of timber out there, and you've got $40,000 worth of work to get to it, I just wanna know that there's another option.
yeah, we'd have to get some help on your question on that. That's way over my head. I can only help you with the forestry and natural resources, you know, I'm
Yep.
just trying to help you out with ideas.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, that's my background,
Yep.
you know, I do land
Yep.
management, and,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that road sounds super economical to me, if that'd be my first stop, is to research that. Yeah,
I will
and then
scope it
he,
out tomorrow with my boat.
well, yeah, no, but the deeds, you know, to see
Yep.
what, legally what that is.
No, we'll figure all that out.
Yeah, definitely, because, you know, and even if that's not the case, so I would be looking at that too, to see is that a more economical access, you know, through there?
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you.
cool, thanks, nice talking with you.
You as well.
Come on back, Andy.
That was the board of selectmen's topic, so if you guys are good, we're gonna adjourn.
we hold on here for a minute?
We can. We can. Come on back to cheap seats.
Carry on, Steve.
Oh, okay. Hey, so, yeah, Ricky, we, you know, we as a commission kind of, put in per the town legal policy a request for access to the town attorney. And, you know, from my perspective, we didn't get that. We never got an answer. I think the way the policy reads is essentially, you know, the selectman will authorize the chair to go to the town attorney. And so there's been some legal opinions, and this is all to the East Road Field. You know, there's been traffic with Parks and Rec, and like, we never got permission to go to the town attorney. And I think as a commission, I'll say we're not happy about what happened. And we don't know what actually got fed to the town attorney that weighed into any opinions, because there's a ton of material, including like a zoning variance that was granted to create the parcel that was conveyed to the town. So we don't know, and we never got to talk, or Andy didn't get to talk to the town attorney, even though we followed the town legal access policy, and we got no feedback from the Board of Selectmen, and I just think that that's, you know, that's not okay. And then also, because of that, we feel, you know, kind of disenfranchised, and even looking at, you know, drafted up a request for proposal to hire an attorney, you know, from conservation to deal with this issue. You know, it's just, so I don't know if you could speak to what happened and why we weren't granted direct access, and we just don't feel like we're a part of this legal opinion, and it's not right.
I don't know what you speak of with the zoning aspect. That doesn't ring a bell with me.
So we asked for access, I mean, the long and short of the question is, we asked for access as a commission per the policy to the attorney, and we're never given an answer on that. So the zoning part of it is, see, and this is the problem, right? We've gone through this on multiple nights with multiple people, and kind of understand where all the bits and pieces that came together for that project are. And they're in meeting minutes, they're in an option that was assigned to the town. You know, so those are all key things that an attorney needs to look at when deciding what the right answer was. And so, you know, the chair knew all this stuff, and the intent was to say, Laura, we've got these 10 documents that you need to review to come up with your opinion and guide the town. We were never given that. So the zoning one I'm talking about was, there are multiple parcels, and there still are multiple parcels over there, but specifically,
Are we, East Road?
East Road.
Thank you.
So at East Road, Ian McSweeney went in with the banks for the parcel that, so they needed, I don't know how many units are in the apartment building in there, but there's a bunch of units in there, and they needed 5 acres per unit, right? So they went in for a variance specific to carving the field off, doing a lot line adjustment and putting it into the parcel that we ended up owning. And the variance talks about the reason was to preserve the agricultural field and give it to the town. Now typically, ZBA's decisions have a different legal precedence than many other town decisions. So the attorney really needs to know that and look at that.
Okay.
And there's no indication of that. But the bigger picture, you know, the bigger picture issue here to me is, you have a commission that followed the town policy and no communication back.
We didn't hear from you, we didn't hear from the town administrator
When was the request made?
last month.
Yeah, you guys
I don't think I was
acknowledged
here,
it.
was I? I think I was on my 2-week outage. I couldn't say. I think I was out those weeks, because this is not ringing a bell with me.
You did receive, we received an email back that you received it. I got a copy, I got that you received it.
Okay.
So
So
we're
if
not,
that- If that fell through on my part, then my apologies. I don't, again, it's new territory for me as well, this new policy. You know, I probably looked at it, and, yep, I'll get right on that and totally spaced it. And if that's the case, then my apologies. But again, I don't honestly remember that. If I respond to Mark, then obviously I received it, because I think, I do remember an email from Andy, I don't remember the context of it, but it was, can you respond to make sure that this was received?
yeah,
If
the-
that is- yeah.
we're trying to do it right.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that.
And we've been
That's-
told in the past
yeah.
we haven't. And prior to that, we actually had ready access. Steve could talk to Laura, I could talk to Laura, we'd get quick answers. It helped us in our work, and now we don't get that. The last time I picked up the phone, her number's there, called her, I was chastised for going over Naomi said.
Okay.
And since then, Naomi does not communicate with us in answer to our questions, whether it's email or leaving a voicemail. I don't get an answer. You know, this was a formal written, we tried, you know,
No,
do the whole 9 yards according to the new policy, and here we are, you know, month plus later, and we're like, well, shoot, somebody else can ask a question and get a response day or two later. We ask a question, we get nothing.
Well,
What gives? So,
No, again, if it falls on me, it falls on me. And-
so
and my
what should I do,
apologies.
though? Should I pick up the phone and call you?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm only human. You
Understood.
know, I guess after a week of no response, I guess I
Yeah.
would have thought, hey, you know, maybe I should reach out to this guy again. Maybe something came up. I don't know. So, you know, again, to just say, hey, just a poke, you know? And I'm not saying that, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I'll be honest with you.
So we were in front of the commission, in front of the Board of Selectmen though, and, you know, there was a lot of discussion about, you know, you guys checking with the attorney as well, and I guess, I get what you're saying, Ricky, so at this point, can we get permission to go directly to Laura, nobody in the middle, nobody interfering, give her the documents that we think are pertinent so she can take a broader look at the issue for the town?
Personally, I don't have an issue with you guys forwarding the documentation to her, no.
And it, you know, I think it says in the policy, the chair talking to the, you know, you're basically giving him permission to keep costs contained, to talk to her and give her all the documents.
Right, yeah, so I think it would be prudent to forward her all the information, absolutely, that you guys have, obviously, so she can make a more educated decision. Salem, you guys, or Sherry, you wanna speak to this? I feel like, I mean, again, I'm saying I received it, but I don't remember most of this context.
Yeah, I guess if it would be beneficial, I would definitely be okay with the chair contacting and including the document. I would not want to tilt the seesaw the other way. I think that we should also then give the same access to the park chair, so that, you know, 'cause we've had a little bit of that back and forth. Well, but I guess the planning hasn't been involved in East Road.
Correct.
So for this,
East Road specifically, okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Janice is also, I stumbled into some minutes earlier today, Janice Matthews, Selectman Matthews, wondered aloud at a meeting whether we could have Conservation as well as Parks and Rec and Board of Selectmen at the same time with the attorney hash out some of these questions, so that everybody was hearing the same inputs to his or her capacity and the same response.
I think probably the best.
So,
So if we had both chairs talk to Laura, say, here's everything we have, here's kind of what we're thinking from each side, and then we have a meeting with the three boards, committees, boards and commissions, I guess. But rather than sit down and try and have the lawyer hash all of it out live, I think that would be a disservice to her. So I would propose allow Conservation Commission, allow Park, anybody, if anybody from the Board of Selectmen cares to, I don't think anybody would, but, you know, chime in with her, and when she says, okay, I've got everything I need, then sit down all together. That's what I propose.
I'm gonna suggest that you really are gonna wanna provide her the documentation and let her chew on it before wasting any time with any discussions, you know, that's,
Sure, that's fine.
That's
I'm
important,
saying, you know, the two
Yeah.
chairs should be able to talk to her.
Yeah.
And then whether it's an impasse or whether, okay, we're all on the same page,
Yeah.
now we'll sit down.
Yeah.
I'm saying, same thing, I think, is I
Yeah.
don't want everybody to meet too early,
right,
so.
yeah, I agree with you.
it'd go a long way towards calming the waters. At least we wouldn't have to wonder, you know, what was shared, what was requested, what was asked, what were the questions
I think
put forward.
there's still, you know, loose ends on that from the original purchase, and I think that obviously we'd like to clean all that up moving forward, obviously.
I'll roll right into another thing. I'd like to clean up those loose ends with another warrant article from the Conservation Commission. I think we got about 4 or 5 days before Monday, I'd hope the Board of Selectmen would entertain another article that hopefully would clean up the loose ends, some of the loose ends on that. So is that something I can share with you? Can I read it now and roll right into that?
I mean, you know, again, before we put any weight on it tonight, I would like to have the full board obviously present. I'm not saying that,
Yeah, I
I'm
think-
not saying
Yeah.
either way, but.
Sounds like we hear a draft now, and then we'd have Monday with public hearing to
Correct,
finalize
that's
it.
what I'm thinking.
So,
Obviously, we would want you guys in attendance on it at our
oh,
meeting.
yes. We've been doing that a lot lately, and here you are at our meeting. It's quite a lot. So, what I have just tonight shared with the fellow commissioners, what I'm proposing, and if there's a chance that you guys could work on it, I would look for a motion in a second, and we would go through our normal procedures for having the commission, proposal come from the commission, but the draft language would be along the lines of, to complete the work initiated by the March 12th, 2023 vote on warrant article 29, shall the town authorize the Conservation Commission to convey the associated conservation easement over a portion of the property, including the existing hayfield and exclusive of 20 contiguous acres set aside as originally intended for ongoing gravel pit operations and future recreational facilities to a qualified land trust such as a Piscataquag Land Conservancy or Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, subject to the final approval of the Board of Selectmen, and for such fees as may be requisite for such to come from the Town Conservation Fund or other fundraising by the Conservation Commission pursuant to RSA 36-A:4, Section 1. So the idea there is to say, this is something that the original Article 29 put to the Board of Selectmen, complete the easement, do the easement over those portions of the property intended for easement.
So, I guess.
And what the article would be trying to do here is say, frankly, that didn't work, we didn't get there. Let's move that by vote of the townfolk to the Conservation Commission, a body that's more, better constituted for developing a conservation easement, for marketing an easement, or requesting a land trust to work with us on an easement, as well as the burden of financing the survey work that would be required, monitoring contributions that would be required, the financial element, that burden would be on the Conservation Commission. So if we were able to do all that with the approval of the townsfolk, and we get a land trust on board, we get language that we, the commission, are happy with, the land trust is happy with, we present that to the Board of Selectmen saying, this is what we've got to tie up that loose end. If you approve it, then we have it done. If you don't approve it, then we're back to the drawing board. We're still dealing with the loose ends. I think there's been 10 years of a burden on the town administration and the Board of Selectmen that has gone unfulfilled. I think part of the problem was it was not properly placed. That burden should have been on the Conservation Commission to get the work done.
That's something that we've kind of gone back and forth on the second half of this year, of managing.
Because what?
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is what? Yeah. I guess my only comment to that, and again, you guys can discuss it, and approve it, obviously via motion, send to us, would be, I mean, does that, I guess my question is, does that contradict anything from the initial warrant article?
It's a definitely
Or change,
not.
just other than the direction
Two things.
from the selectmen?
It's a redirect and it's a clarification.
Obviously, all the warrant articles we have to run by the legal counsel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys can approve it the way it's written, which is fine, and, you know, we can try and put it on, which is fine, but it could get kicked back as far as it needs alteration, that's all.
As they all do, yes. And it's, unlike our other ones, this is a, first pass through. It's not a iterative, something we've done for years and years and years, but, we've struggled with this over, especially this past 6 months or so. It's like, well, we had before us the opportunity, the obligation to complete an easement. And as the town administrator's been saying, let's just get it done. And so what I'm proposing here for consideration, both to the commission as well as you guys, is would this help clarify what is involved in getting it done? There's a labor effort to come up with language. There's a networking effort to come up with the land trust who's interested in working with us. There's financial obligations because there would need to be a legal survey conducted. And these land trusts usually require a fee when they take an easement because they are in perpetuity going to be saddled with the obligation to monitor and see that the terms of the easement are kept to.
So again, just to clarify, I mean, I heard it. Would this also put the Conservation Commission in charge of that property that the gravel's on?
No, exclusive of that. And I think that's consistent with the intent of the original article, the discussions that we had back in 2012, 2013.
You know, I should throw something out on that. I think there's confusion there on how the town uses the land, the property versus who manages it. So, that gravel area, I mean, right now, that whole parcel is identified as conservation, and we're using it, you know, we can use it for gravel. I mean, that was set aside, and then, yeah, it's kinda, it'll be a weird situation, but, you know, I don't know, we have to ask Laura, really, do you need to carve that out of, you need to carve it out of the conservation easement, but do we officially redesignate, like, in the town, because we're not gonna create, like, a new map and lot number for that 20 acres, I don't think, but we need to ask someone, because we've got the same situation at Bolton Fields, because somebody, they, believe somebody, merged the two lots down at Bolton Field.
Well, that was my exact thought, is the fact that if that does ever get put into fields, or if a building is ever put up in there because of expansion, or who knows, you know, this place we gotta grow it, we gotta put, whatever, who manages that spot?
Yeah, Felch is the same thing, right? I mean, the transfer station's in the middle of it.
Oh, there you
That's,
go.
yeah, so
We as a conservation commission certainly aren't trying to say, no, put
I'm
the,
not, well, like you said, there'd have to be obviously.
Baylor over there.
There'd have to be some clarification in the deed or somewhere documented about, you know, again, where the line.
be in
no
the,
pun intended, where
in the
line stands.
easement language.
two things though, Rick, right? Two things. So the easement is, you convey rights to somewhere spatially on the ground.
Right.
That's where the survey comes in. But the other thing we're talking about is like, who's tagged in the town report, like, you know, is that whole thing still conservation land, or do you break that out and you say that, no, 20 acres of this is field? Does it need to be a separate map and lot, or?
Understood, yeah.
Right, so, yeah, that was kind of, so we've got three of those right now. I mean, this one, Felch, Bolton, yeah. And Bolton was, that happened after I joined the commission. Somebody, without really talking to us, went and just dissolved the lot lines. I think there was a different lot line there originally. Yeah, so that, good, spend some more legal money.
Yeah, exactly. Good intention is more legal money. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ricky, for considering that. Your input's valuable. As we look at words here, anything you can share as three people, great, but I understand that the bulk of the real work on it, the up, down, or otherwise, would come on Monday.
Yeah, it'd be different Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would add clarity to the situation.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, probably about Tuesday morning, yeah.
One other thing on that request, which was back in November 26th,
Okay.
The legal request, yeah.
we
legal
had two other
assistance.
things for that, which part of it, I think we got Cagliano, didn't get
Oh.
the
Yeah, 'cause one of them was for the Poor Farm, right?
Poor Farm, and the other one is Cortland Ave.
Yes. Yeah, I remember the Poor Farm. That,
Yeah.
all right, now it's starting to.
So we haven't had direct, for us to address what we're supposed to be
Way back in
doing.
on it, yeah.
We don't know what we have.
You're right, the question without answer.
Yeah.
But we do understand that town administrator, I we sent along a letter certified,
The Caglianos.
yeah, And that was returned to us undeliverable?
It's always the way.
Do we use the tax address on that? You know where all the tax statements are going to? Cause they must be getting paid. Yeah.
But it's changed evidently, because it went from Kingsborough to West Groton now.
Wow.
So I sent it to West Groton now, because we need to know where to serve papers if we're gonna do a 500.
I got an email for him too, if that helps.
You can't serve papers.
No, you might be able to tell him, try to get hold of him. Yeah.
I might be able to get a valid address out of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and tax bill's gotta go somewhere, that's something that, we don't wanna sleep on as a town for sure, so I'm sure I suspect there's something in place to solve that mystery, cause return tax bills would not be very cool.
We're advised to send it regular mail, so that they know that you picked it up and we don't get it back, so that we know someone's there to serve papers for 500.
Did that go, or could that go, regular mail?
I sent it certified to West Groton first, because I really think regular mail can say I didn't get it.
It really should
I
go
mean, people
certified.
are still said they sent their tax bill in December and I got it. We haven't gotten it, so it's like regular mail.
Mhm.
I've been trying to next step, because his address did change. He's gonna change the address for the tax bill.
So that would be the next step, is send regular mail?
To the new address,
I'm sorry, you're waiting for,
I sent it to the new address, I'm just waiting to get it back. Hopefully we don't. I want my green
you did
card.
send it, sorry, I didn't, I
Yeah, we
tried.
sent it to the new one,
All right,
I want my
so,
green card back.
yeah,
certified.
thank you for working, thank you for the update on that. Not trying to hold you guys
No,
tonight, but
no, not at
fellow
all.
commissioners, any
Yeah,
thoughts? It's a rare
Mark.
opportunity.
Mark had mentioned Cortland Ave. That's
Yes, that's one more, yeah. that we haven't put the bid-
No, yeah, you gotta,
Yeah, that we haven't put the bid yet. Obviously, that was a request you guys had. And that was the easement to Outback, right?
no, it's they
The lack
never
of
monumented.
monuments,
That's right,
so,
monuments, yes. Yeah, okay.
I mean, just so you know, we got the same issue at Duck Pond. It's a horror show, cause back in the day, planning board was letting developers, the plan said monuments to be set. Now, I believe they don't allow that anymore, so,
What's that?
but what we did that was dumb as a town, especially with Duck Pond, is we actually accepted the real estate transfer. And we accepted the easement transfer without the monuments being in the ground. Yeah, horror show. So,
We did with Gilbert, but we got Gilbert when he wanted to make it a town road. We made him set the monument.
which is what we were hoping for on Cortland, but it hasn't happened.
And I don't know that I can make him do that.
Right,
He's still
understood.
on the road.
Yeah.
We still have his money.
Still
Right.
haven't, yeah, accepted the road
We
yet.
haven't put on the top coat, we have money to do that, but we haven't.
Hilburn was, yeah, that was a couple of years, at least before the top coat was laid.
so it's like a Laura question, right? I mean, that would be, what do we, cause what do we do? And I think that unfortunately, we're kinda dummies for taking real estate without monuments being set, so what's the recourse? That's what we need to find out.
Taking a handshake agreement on it, type thing, you know.
No, there was, no, cause I mean, it was allowed back then.
Oh, I'm sure it was, I'll put them in.
The question's coming from us in the sense of, how do we monitor the conservation land without a boundary?
So boundary sets, yeah.
Right, so that's where my understanding, that's where the question comes from.
Right, understood.
So how do we force them to set the boundaries? So do you guys have the ball on that, or you want Andy to ask?
I mean, we can,
They're already talking.
yeah, I mean, we can, I don't see why they couldn't ask. I mean, you guys have more history on it than we do. But I guess, yeah, and if it rolls back to us putting it in, then so be it. Just, we'll have to communicate it, that's all.
That's gonna be expensive. You mean putting in the monuments?
No, if it rolls back to us to try and enforce it,
Oh,
you know what I mean? If it rolls back to us, just let us know so we can write it into whatever we need to.
Is there a time limit on how long these developers can let a bond open?
I don't believe so.
Would you like to weigh in, Bruce? Come on up to Mike if you're, sorry, guys, we wanna get,
You're good, you're good.
I'm Bruce Fillmore, I'm the vice chair of the planning board. We have a bond that includes the monuments for Duck Pond and the other road.
so can anything other than just hold that bond until there's compliance be done? I mean, is there a time when that runs out and,
Unfortunately, there is not.
Yeah.
As long as he's willing to maintain everything, the bond is still in place.
Yeah.
But at some point, when he says, okay, I'm all done maintaining it, I wanna get the town to accept the road, we'll say, no, you gotta put your monuments in first.
How much is the bond for, Bruce?
280,
280,000?
yeah. That's for Duck Pond Field, though.
for Cortland, yeah,
Yeah, I wonder what the survey costs in monuments, and it's gotta be,
less than that.
yeah, probably under, probably 20, some 30 maybe.
So there is some warranty there that it gets done.
So can we get that documentation for, do you guys have that, you can send over to us, or?
I don't know, we have a bond, there's a bond agreement, right? Yeah, there's a bond agreement.
We made a punch list this summer, because he thought he might pay it. The price list is so long, he didn't decide not to do what he was supposed to do, and we're still.
And the bonds are in the punch list.
It's unfortunate
The
there's no
yeah,
time
the
frame.
monuments.
Kilburn was 11 years.
So the bond stays good forever?
No.
Cash bond.
Well, the cash bond does, yeah. But usually an insurance bond, they have to renew it every year.
So we've got cash, we're sitting on $280,000. Wow.
You'd think he'd wanna get his money.
Inflation makes it worth less and less every day, so.
I would just say, like, to me, that explanation was helpful, and probably don't need to talk to the attorney if, we're tracking and we've got that. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
Yeah, if we got an answer, it's.
Thank you, Phil.
Not much you can do.
Bruce?
Force it.
Right.
Bruce, sorry, I do that, dear.
Hi, this is just going back to what Ricky and Salem said. I agree with what they said. The only thing I would say is instead of sending down a whole lot of documents, that if Naomi could share what she sent already down, so you're not sending her down 20 different pieces of paper to go through, if she's already reviewed 18 of them, that's all.
Thank you, Sherry. That would be terrific to have that list of what was shared. Questions, email, or something that fills in that blank spot for us. And as you said, it could shorten our discussion, and we don't want to incur unnecessary fees. Certainly repetition is not helpful.
We do kinda have to hurry with this whole thing, though. There's a lot of action pending.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be a good fill in the blanks exercise for this group, for sure, and perhaps for some of you also. But, anybody have any other burning issues, questions? We've extended our guests here, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And I'll go a step further and say, we don't have any more opportunities to do that with the current chair, so thank you, Ricky, for your service
Of course.
to the town, and
Anytime. Yeah, it's been,
This is,
it's been 9 years, but we'll walk away with our head held high, so.
Time flies, huh?
Time flies when you're having fun, absolutely. So like I said, I treated tonight like a regular meeting night, so I'm good to stay till tomorrow, like we did Monday night.
I don't envy you guys at all.
All right, with that, I'm gonna adjourn our meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, all in favor? Go home, same night? Wow, this is unheard of.
All right, so conservation record can say, Selectmen moved along at 8:12. Now, we still have a goodly number of guests here.
Did you wanna finish up on this
Oh, yeah, so.
article here?
Definitely,
Close that.
we're not done with that.
We can come back to it if that's what you're looking to do.
Yeah, we've touched on a bunch of things here. I would definitely want to make sure that, that Bruce, any of your points of interest are dealt with. We do have copies of what Craig proposed, and so we should probably,
That's kind of
all right.
a discussion about that. I mean,
So we'll go there in a moment. Hold your, just for a second, hold the reins there. But we also have Mr. Meany. We have had a fair bit of discussion tonight about that Barden parcel, and you just mentioned to me, particular interest, so if you'd like to come up to the podium and share your concerns, we'll share whatever information we can.
Well, my concern is, Jack Meany, Quaker Street. My concern is that there was a contract signed by the Conservation Commission with the Board of Selectmen over 2 years ago. That you had X number of days, and it was 90 days to get that property in shape, in other words, the buildings removed. You're just starting to get an RFP now. You keep kicking it down the road and try to pass it off to other people. The other part of that contract is to have a comprehensive plan done within 2 years of trails and start doing trails, which I haven't seen done or no mention been done. All I've seen is one spot, and that has to do with the Felch property, which it keeps going out to bid, about putting a trail in. And that was in the spec. And I think that is showing that the Conservation Commission is not taking certain things seriously. I was seriously considering putting a petition warrant article in to take the property back from Conservation and put it out to be sold. You know, that's how far I think you guys have kicked this down the road. You had an opportunity tonight, Mr. King from Hopkins Forestry made mention of it, that he would help you with those buildings for some consideration for that right of way, and you passed right over it. And I think you're doing a disservice. This is the town's property, and I think you're doing a disservice to the town by going into this and spending that money and not following through on what you committed to. That's all I have.
Can I address that one thing, just because I chaired that part of it?
Please.
So Jack, I mean, as far as passing over whatever went on, you know, you realize you got legal requirements as far as the abatement, which is what we're dealing with. I mean, tonight, just,
Abatement?
I just want to.
Abatement as far as what?
Those buildings, the asbestos that's in them. We're further along maybe than you realize, but let me just.
You're just putting on your agenda for an RFP tonight to get them removed. You've kicked it down the road to try to get the fire department and the highway department to do it, and they passed off.
No, I just want to address what you just said about the part that I just chaired with Hopkinton Forestry.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, he made an offer tonight, and we'll take that or not, but that might have been a way out for you.
No, but he mentioned that. That's great, but I mean, I'm trying to deal with the bigger issue of an access road, right? And did mention to him in the meeting here that, that those buildings might be out of the way by the time they do this, as far as the landing. So we are working with.
In other words, another year is what you're saying before those buildings are removed. That's my
No, I'm not
concern.
saying
I don't
anything.
care about Hopkins
No,
and
I'm
Forestry.
saying, well, you're just saying something that I just chaired. I'm just telling you, that is way too complicated to throw that in the mix with Hopkinton in a half-hour discussion
I
about
don't
an
see where it's
access
that
road.
much, I don't see where it's that much complicated. You could have asked him the question about that, and he would have been, maybe given you some answer or some direction.
I don't even
I mean,
know-
you're gonna put out a bid
Well, tell-
now from something that was 2 years ago. How come 2 years, that's my question, 2 years to get this can kicked down there, over 2 years now?
Well, I'm just trying to address with you what you just said about when I just chaired this with Hopkinton.
I'm just saying, he made an offer and
I
you
know.
passed by on it.
Think
You
about
didn't even-
town
you didn't even
purchasing
go in.
policy, think about abatement. You can't let loggers
If
pull
he-
buildings
well, you
out with
ho-
asbestos in them.
You hold it to him that he has to meet the requirements, that you have to get a licensed person to come in here and do the abatement for that. I mean,
Those are
but you
good
could
ideas.
have,
We
you
can
could have
explore
addressed
that.
that, and obviously you didn't, because you didn't want to go any further down that road. That's an option. I don't care
Jack,
whether you
you're
do it or
thinking into
not.
my head somehow in places that I'm not even going. We're trying to deal with a logging access road through wetlands, and that's pretty
I'm
complicated.
just saying, he offered it and offered a parking space for going up in there. So there's a couple of other issues that could have been addressed.
Good
that could
idea.
have been
Well,
taken.
we're gonna continue the conversation, right? So it's not dead, so don't make something up that didn't really
No,
happen.
I'm not making something up. But the other problem does that mean that the abatement of those buildings is dead? You haven't even, like I said, it's been over 2 years and you haven't put an RFP out.
Let them talk about that. So
And you're the one that stood up here and tried to spoon feed it to me when I sat in that chair as a selectman, saying, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. It was an emergency, you had to do it right then and there, and I said, no, this is what you had to do. You guys signed that contract and haven't lived up to it.
you remember the town purchasing policy? You can look through multiple minutes and
I
YouTube
remember that.
everything else. It took forever to get the asbestos inventory done. Took forever because the town purchasing policy.
Because you pushed it off on everybody else. I know I tried to
You
get the
did
fire
not.
department to do it without doing that. You tried to get the highway department to go up there and do
No,
it.
no, not the action, it has to be a licensed contractor, that's the thing I'm talking about. Has to go in there and survey
Have you
for
even put
asbestos.
something out for a licensed contractor?
Yeah,
Have you
they
put out a
they already
bid?
did it. That's,
We have
we already did that.
asbestos.
When's that?
It has asbestos, that's
I
why
know
we
it
had
has
to get a
asbestos, but have you
license.
have you ever, since you found that out, have you put out a bid looking for somebody to do that, to abate that problem?
That's what's on the agenda here that
But I'm,
raises.
but this is over 2 years.
No,
It's
not the
taken-
results, when do we get
No,
the
when
results?
when did you finally have somebody go out there and do it?
You just said,
When, I
Like
didn't,
6 months ago.
6 months?
We got-
Okay, so a year and a half.
yeah, look through all the minutes and the town purchasing policy and all.
Year and a
these
half to go out there to find somebody, to go out and finally get somebody. I mean, if you were in private industry, you'd go out of business.
You guys created all the purchasing rules, not us. Back in the day, I remember Fred
But
Francesco
put out-
told us to do whatever the heck
Put
we
out an
wanted.
RFP to have somebody look at it and then tell them what the cost is, and then bring it forward?
Yes, we had to,
Is
we
the
did have
cost,
to do that.
is the cost brought forward to the Board of Selectmen?
The what?
The cost to have it abated, was it brought forth to the Board of Selectmen?
No, because it was on us to get it done.
No, the survey, so we did an RFP to do the,
Yes.
the survey first.
Yeah, and
That got
whatever
done.
the survey was, and there's a
Right.
cost attuned to that, did you send that forward to the Selectmen?
Yeah, that's done. The results are back.
The board ever see anything on that? So I'm saying, this is the thing,
That's done.
this is where, you know, and you haven't done anything, the other part of that is you haven't done anything to do anything for trails.
So we have a draft trails plan.
Yeah, you have a draft, that's over 2 years, it took you over 2 years to do that.
We could finalize it. We spent, I don't know how many number of meetings asking for citizens of the town to come and volunteer for some sort of trail committee. And we haven't heard anything. And proactively, other things, we've looked at other things we can do. We applied for grants, and we didn't get those grants.
How about putting out an RFP for a contractor to come in and do it and take so much money out of the conservation money and put that forward, to have them do a certain amount, how many other feet or, per year to go out and do something like that. A lot of towns, that's what they do.
See, most economical thing, Jack, would be do that during a log job like we're doing down at Felch.
You have other properties, and this is some of the things, you're stewards of that property, and you tell that to everybody. Part of your mission statement is to open it up, to let people enjoy it and put trails in. These other towns do it, and they're not doing forestry cutting. They're not doing it in conjunction with that. It should have been done probably years ago like that, but it hasn't been done.
Yeah,
So why not get a contractor, pay him out of some of the conservation money to open this property up and put trails in, or where there may be existing logging roads and stuff, to make it so it's accessible to the public.
I think it's gonna be a little more pricey than you're thinking. It'd be a warrant article, but yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
A lot of these towns have trails committees
Yeah,
too,
and they have
they're-
trails committees, and they're not getting them. But I mean, the thing is, I don't think people are gonna volunteer unless they turn and see some movement, and there's no movement. You've had people do it. The last trail I know that was put in was the one the Boy Scouts worked on up at Farron Pond.
That trail is already there.
Yeah, and they finished cleaning it up and put a kiosk down there.
How about you, Jack? You got time now?
Oh, yeah, you wanna give me a piece of heavy equipment? I'll go out there and I'll cut a trail in no time. I'll get
No, I
out
mean,
there
I
and
mean,
a
why,
dozer.
seriously, and it's mini excavator the trail people use, not,
Yeah, you get a small dozer and an excavator. Go get it, and I'll go out there and start doing it.
no, I mean, why don't you, if you wanna
I'm
head
just
up a
telling you.
head up a trails committee and get.
Well, I don't have time to head up a committee, but I'll go out there and do the work.
So that's, I mean, we need a committee essentially that's gonna, you know, we gotta follow the state statute and have their meetings and come up with a plan and do it, so that, we need that. those kind of
You've
people.
had 2 years to start doing something, and it hasn't happened, and that's the disappointment.
Well,
I
Mike
mean,
just said all the stuff we did, right?
well, yeah,
I mean,
but I'm
discounting
saying, it's
that.
taking you over a year and a half to get this done. I mean, I know Rome wasn't built in a day, but you can't tell me that there are other things too. You can't be doing something on this and getting some type of plan started out, not waiting for somebody to cut a piece of property off and then turn around and use that logging road as a trail.
I understand.
I'm
what
just
you're
saying, on that Baden property, you signed the contract, and basically, it doesn't mean the paper it was written on. It doesn't mean anything.
Look at the agenda right here, I mean, obviously it does.
Yeah, and you had a time frame, and obviously you didn't meet it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if you were in some other industry or someplace else, you didn't meet the contract you signed, you'd be in violation.
You know, it's not a contract. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it
an
is.
agreement. No, it isn't.
It's agreement. You sign it, it's a contract, it's agreement, it's semantics, it means the same thing. You agreed to do this in a time frame. If I said that to you, I agreed to do your roof in a time frame, and I didn't do it, you'd have me in for violation of that contract, or violation of the agreement.
So it's all one town, one entity, so, no.
But you act as if it's two different entities. It's that
No.
you and not the town property, it's the conservation property, and it's the town's property.
That's nonsense.
Well, I've seen it before with you guys. Get all up in arms about a guy bear baiting down the backside of Bolton, because, oh, this is conservation property, he can't do that. Why, we signed the permission slip.
We've always signed that. You guys signed the permission slip, not us. That was the
And yeah,
rub on that.
and you came in saying it's our property. No, it's the town's property.
Yeah, that's just a communication thing. That's like the beaver trap, and we've always authorized that, right? Always.
Well, some of it's not on conservation land, some of it is.
Right, I mean, that's, you
But
just,
this says that the town has to sign for it, so it doesn't say the Conservation Commission has to sign the permit.
yeah, but I mean, we're kinda bouncing around here. We've been supportive of all traditional outdoor uses. We've never said no to anything like that. You know that.
Well, I don't know, I know that at times past, you gave the snowmobile club a hard time about putting trails.
Never did. We actually partnered with them. Never, ever
You
once.
partnered with them finally, but I mean,
No, never.
no.
Always been supportive. How long you guys been on the commission? I mean, the snowmobile?
You know, I know Jack's upset.
Yeah, well, I know there was one parcel of land that came before the town, and you came in and rose all types of stink over the fact that it was up on the back end of the lake, about crossing it, and putting a trail across that.
Never.
Oh.
Never.
But that's
Do you
it.
remember, do you remember we?
My
we-
my
do you-
thing
wait,
was,
wait. Do
is-
you remember, let me say something. Do you remember we actually got in that whole fray with that landowner that was upset because he had two parcels that touched together? And we were supportive of the snowmobile trail. Remember that disaster where a whole bunch of trails got shut down because of
Yeah.
that? So I mean, yeah, I think you're thinking something
No,
different.
No, I remember that, because I remember the discussion on it, it was
You have
great
to-
and in depth. But my thing is the Barden property,
Okay.
because that got ramrodded, it seemed like at the time, and now you agreed to sign that, and you haven't lived up to it, that's what I'm saying.
We're still working on it.
Could I speak just for a second to Jack?
Please go ahead, Sherry.
I think that, we've had a lot of roadblocks with this whole Biden thing, getting RFPs and getting the people to come out and do the job and having to wait for months for them to come out. But, you know, it's not just that, it's not like we're not trying. My concern is that you just kinda nail it, that it's the Conservation Commission all the time. But I can tell you that this whole deal with this property down on East Road, that was supposed to have an easement put on it back in 2013 or 14, and then somebody dropped the ball and it didn't get done. And the selectmen agreed to that at the time, the setting selectmen, they didn't do it. So there are things that don't get done, and the selectmen
And how come
all-
my question is, okay, I agree, the selectmen probably dropped the ball on that, but nobody brought it up since then, till recent history, and brought it forward to the Board of Selectmen to follow. Not in my tenure as 6
No,
years.
because they didn't get brought up, because the Conservation Commission was told that the selectmen were taking care of it. They thought it was done.
Well, that was before my time.
Well, it was before my time
So,
too,
there you
but
go.
I'm just saying,
But
things
nobody,
happen.
but again, it's like somebody said, oh, well, Laura didn't answer us. Well, nobody followed through. Nobody came back and put the bug back in somebody else's bonnet, and the board changes. How come they didn't come forward and do it again?
Don't know.
With regularity.
Yeah.
You think it's
Felt
done?
nobody thought it was a big deal until just recently.
No, the selectmen had
Not
said they
true.
were gonna do it. It was handed
And it
off.
took from
for it to be done.
2013 to 2023 to bring that forward, 10 years.
You have a habit of standing up there and bringing everything down on the shoulders of Conservation
No, but I'm
Commission.
saying, you guys were the ones concerned about it. The Board of Selectmen didn't, at the time when I sat
You
there,
want me
didn't
to-
even
you
know
want to-
about it.
You want me to read the article?
They thought that it was
Read the
done.
article, but I didn't even know about it not being done that way until just recently when it come back
All
out.
right, you don't know everything, Jack.
No, I never said I did.
Thank you.
But
Nobody
Jack,
does.
you didn't know it, that it wasn't done either,
No, neither did you.
and
So,
neither did I. So, and I wasn't on the board at that point, but I,
well, my question is with the, issue is with the Baden property, and it didn't seem to make any difference what was signed or not signed or agreed to or wasn't agreed to. So, thank you.
Thanks for having your piece.
well,
All right, we've got some guests here. Bruce, let me just Say, folks in the back, how are we doing? You're welcome to stay as long as you want. I just want to make sure you're not hanging on something that we're not getting to, and
Honestly, I'm just a little awkward and I'm just waiting to hear about the wetlands.
gotcha. So,
I was gonna leave, but it's just awkward.
it is that. Thank you. Welcome to the sausage factory. Yeah. So, Bruce, come on up. Let's as a commission talk about, thank you, Ricky. Good night. Let's talk about article, I think it's running forward as 28, maybe?
Yeah, we've,
Subject to change.
I encourage, whoever wants to talk about it tomorrow night, come to our meeting. We have one shot tomorrow night of making some changes to it. So if you think you wanna make some changes, we really ought to have them figured out for the meeting tomorrow night.
Okay, that's good to know that,
Because after that, it's just grammatical changes we're
Yeah.
allowed to do.
while you're here with us tonight, could you give us your, 30,000-foot view on where, what it's addressing, how it's improving our procedures here in town?
I really don't, no.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't, I do take no for an answer, so.
Yeah, I don't wanna step on anybody's toes or say anything out of place, so I'd rather do it tomorrow night with the board.
Your agenda tomorrow night, how's it looking? Is this something that's
It's,
towards the front end of what you plan on doing, or is it,
we've got a couple little conceptual things that'll probably last a half an hour. So we start at 7, so I mean, if you get there like 7:30, 7:45, if I know you come in, I'll make sure Craig doesn't start that before you get there.
well, it's, we'll talk about it tonight. You're welcome to stay and listen to us. I appreciate what you're spending your time here tonight to make sure we knew that, because we don't always know that. And as our guests are pointing out, unanticipated, there's actually broader interest in these changes than just folks sitting here at the table,
Mhm.
so.
And you guys come, I mean, we encourage you to come tomorrow night too.
Oh, we will.
Thank you.
Yep.
In your word of it, so.
One of my concerns is that we're taking something that was simple and didn't require a lot of expert input, beyond the delineation in accordance with the Army Corps manual, whatever that jurisdictional wetland language was, and we're now making a process that is very prescribed and involves, it seems like, more professional input and judgment than we previously were working with. And I read through this. I wonder if there's portions of this process that are better handled by a Conservation Commission, not that I want anything else to handle. Or whether, the commission just steps in to make suggestions along the way, comes to planning board meetings to chat about various applications. I have some concerns that it's perhaps a solution in search of a problem.
So, remember, we are an advisory committee, so there's a fine line there when you get into essentially a permitting process. So that would probably.
Like I say, I'm not saying that that's a place I would want to go, but when I see what is being asked for, I wonder how staffed or how well the planning board's gonna be able to evaluate what these professionals are presenting as far as making the determination that something is significant or not significant in a wetlands role. Because then, depending on what they say, it's a 50 feet or 100 feet, and the buffer's half of that. It's making quite a judgment call.
What's the state statute say?
Uh,
Wetland,
There's nothing.
there's absolutely nothing on it?
No, because you've got, this is on the upland side of the wetland. The wetland itself is regulated. The upland side is not.
Is he talking about more like the vernal pools and stuff that are temporary? Is that what I gathered from that explanation? Where it stonewalls somebody from putting in a driveway straight through what would be a vernal pool 1 or 2 months out of the year? And if they just go through it, it just
Serves
streamlines.
less of the
Well,
wetland.
It's one less hassle for a landowner to go through. Otherwise, they have to consult a wetland scientist, and then they gotta build a driveway around the thing. I don't think he's talking about encroaching on actual wetlands per se, you know, with the cattails and the water in it. We talked about, remember I kept asking him about the hydric soils?
Yeah.
And he would, you know, a lot of jobs we go on, they're delineated as a wetland. And when we go near there and dig in a little bit to see, there's no hydric B, no hydric, nothing. It's just good soils. But there's leaves and stuff on there, and it puddles up now, obviously, with all the rain we've been getting. And so a wetland delineated scientist, I've seen them delineate those spots right now. If they go out now, they can't tell what's really a wetland and what's not, because everything is so saturated. So they'll delineate that. So now the landowner comes in and says, oh my God, this is where the, you know, the driveway was gonna be, or a culvert was gonna go. And now I can't. Now I have to have somebody spend $40,000 to design something else. And I know of horror stories of landowners that have gone through $40,000, $50,000 of design work for nothing. And when we show up to look at that, we shake our heads like, what were they thinking? There's no wetness here.
So,
I think that's what he's trying to address.
well, but to your point though, Ray, see, the state, I think, is using the 87 core manual right now, because the feds had that lawsuit, and it's just a mess right now, federal, right? So the wetland delineation itself, that's a certified wetland scientist following that 87 manual. Wherever they put their line, that's their problem. This has nothing to do with that. Once they put the line there, then this protocol that Craig has created, and he was saying, like, these wetlands that appear not to have any functional value at all, but still delineate out as a wetland, and that, you know, assuming that they went by the 87 core manual, would be ranked low, looking at these questions on that second page. And see, I think this is a disaster for a landowner, honestly, because there shall be no setback. I mean, to me, you know, if that's puddling, you don't wanna put the corner of a house up against wetland or a garage or anything else, and that's what this will cause.
Yeah.
So, that's bad, but,
This happens now.
yeah,
Very near to where I live, it has happened. There are 2 houses that were built there a number of years ago, right in the middle of a drainage ditch. Natural, where all the water goes, even to this day. I watched it this morning come off my driveway and go right into 2 people's backyards. They have flooded basements, they have mold, they've had septic failures, and yet it all passed, it all went through. So it depends if the engineers are honest, to use lack of a better word. So the people that really got the hard end of the deal was the homeowners, because they trusted the developer and the builder to build them a house that would be in a good spot. And the developer, you know, profits ahead of anything else, built these houses wherever they fit. And that's it, and that, you gotta live with that the rest of your life now, you can't change it. So, I don't know if this ruling here that he's talking about would help that, or not have any impact at all, because it happened anyway.
it's gonna cut it all the way back, or potentially could.
It's hard to say.
Well, I don't think so, looking at it. I mean, the setbacks, so there's, if you look on the matrix, if the wetland doesn't have, let's see, has no functions in 1 to 6, there's no setback, and then, they did this, these functions aren't weighted, so, to me, like, if you have a state listed endangered species using that wetland, it should get a waive, that should really greatly increase the setback, and these things are all given equal weight, and then you just look at, all right, do I have 3 of these? No. So it's the setback. Do I have 6 of them? Yep. Well, it's the maximum setback.
Well, when Craig was here, I asked a question, who makes the decision as to if it's a, I forget what the word they use, but, basically it's not a wetland. Even though it's delineated, it's just like a wet spot when it's heavy rain. Who makes that decision? And he said it was the experts.
Well, none of the supplies, Mark, in that case. So, think about this. You've got a New Hampshire licensed wetland scientist.
Yep.
They use the 87 core manual
Yep.
to delineate a wetland. So that person goes out there with a soil auger, they look at the vegetation and the soils, and they decide. So if it's not a wetland, you don't even worry about this. It's not a wetland. You just, so that's step number 1. Then step number 2, this really addresses the buffer, right? Because state law protects the wetland. So this is specific to the buffer and the setback, so the building setback. And so now the wetland scientist goes out there and they flag a circle, right?
Yep.
So here, this is regulated by the state in here. Now, when you look at, like, when we're looking at our plans, we have the 25-foot setback.
Yep.
Yeah, so now that line's gonna vary, but what's gonna happen is, we're telling this landowner's agent, this wetland scientist, that they are gonna do an assessment, and it's one of these methodologies that
Yep.
are on the front, in this paragraph.
Yep.
They're gonna prepare this assessment using one of these methodologies. They're gonna turn that into the planning
That's
board.
Right.
Preparing a report.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're gonna prepare that report with, according to this matrix, where they think the buffer and the setback lies.
Should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the planning board's and they're gonna give us 30 days to look at that, and they're gonna then accept or not accept it.
So if it's a 50-foot setback and they said really doesn't need to be, and to make it work, they need a 25-foot setback, they can make that determination.
No, so the report's gonna create the setback.
Okay.
Before, we just had a 25-foot, well, we had a 25-foot buffer, then we had so the setback's prescribed by law.
We didn't have a 50-foot setback?
No, so this,
It's always been 25?
this buffer and setback are baked into this, it's not just a setback. So we had a 25-foot buffer. State law is there's 2 different setbacks to, I think, is there one for wells too? There's definitely one for septics.
Well, I thought it was.
No, not for wetlands, for wells. A
75.
well right in the middle of a
Was it a
wetland.
water? I thought there was.
Technically.
No,
It's a
septic.
system.
Septic is
Septic.
75 feet.
75 on the septic.
I thought well you can't punch in them because you don't want infiltration on the casing. I guess
Oh,
you
no,
could.
that doesn't happen here. You have to drive your casing 20 feet into bedrock and
Yeah.
seal it. You can't mix the groundwater with the deep water.
Right, yeah, you
Right.
definitely can.
That's why the state basically frowns upon dug wells.
Yeah, but I thought,
Drawing surface water in a dug well.
right, but I don't think you can punch a well in a well. I'm not sure what this, I don't have the internet either, but if there is one for wells. But anyhow, do we have a building setback?
I think that was 50.
I thought it was 50.
Yeah, so that's going away.
50-foot setback from wetland.
Yeah, so that's gone.
That's what we were used to seeing on plans.
So literally, this little circle right here, if this thing is one of the lowest value wetlands, according to the landowner's agent, and planning board agrees with them, the corner of that garage can be a centimeter over from that
And
wetland
the
edge.
wetland itself is still subject to the dredge and fill obligations of the state.
Right, but as long as you have erosion control around that
Right, yeah.
wetland and you put that footing,
Doesn't
I mean, it's
seem right.
literally that paper line,
Yeah.
that footing can go right there.
I think that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what we're creating.
And someone will push that limit.
Of course they will, because you're trying to,
Because they're trying to put a house in
house
a...
lots.
So that's why I think everything should be on a case-by-case basis, like the guy that wanted the gutter guy.
Yeah.
Where he's got the rock ditch line along his driveway,
Yeah.
which is considered a wetland, but really, no. So his driveway could be right along that, because roads are along ditch lines.
Well,
But the way our law reads now, that would prevent him from doing that.
is that is that a misdelineation though? Remember we were talking about like getting the Bob Prokop out there to say, cause there's only some people are really good at those anthropogenic situations. That's the hardest thing, just to say, this is man-made, it's not jurisdictional, and then you gotta
Again,
document
it
that.
just feels like a solution in search of a problem, because if, and I think that gutter business was a perfect example. You go to you either, sure, you can decide, you know what, 6 one way, half dozen the other, I'll go around the other side of the building. Or you just say, you know what, that's where it makes sense to have it. I'll make the case to the planning board, and yes, that's another meeting, another expense, but so is this report. That you now need, you're relying on a professional to prepare this report beyond the plans, and either it could be a real good one and be expensive, or it could be a real shoddy one and not be very expensive. But yet, you've added an additional hurdle while trying to open up additional possibilities.
Yeah, it's interesting that they don't have the option, that he didn't include an option to just stick with the 50-foot, not go through the rigmarole. Like, it sounds like every single project would require this,
Right.
as opposed to,
You can always make
Doing
it.
it
a
like,
setback.
it would make sense maybe for if you wanted to try to have a smaller, setback, but,
But if
Yeah,
you've
it
got
seems
plenty of
like
room, you
everyone
should
do
definitely
this.
stick with a 50-foot
yeah.
setback.
Well, it's common sense. If you have plenty of room, why would you wanna encroach a wetland
That's right.
and then bring all that wetness
that-
to your
that-
building?
You know, bring the mosquitoes that much closer, or what have you.
But that's not,
The
that's
weather
not the way it's
recently, you'd have
stated.
a flooded basement.
I mean, this is all about packing as many house lots and
Yeah, of
buildings
course,
in
yeah.
as you can, I mean, that's always the game, right?
Yeah.
Without building a road.
But
I
it's-
do like that idea of making this, it can be worked however it's worked, but making this and not just adding a line
everyone, yeah.
of
Yeah,
what
the
stands.
wetland
that'd be-
setback
that'd
shall
be-
be 50
if-
feet,
if-
or,
If you're looking to,
Give them an option to be able to have it.
If you
Review.
wanna make the case that this is of no value and it was a misidentification or something like that, then
adds
this
an
would give you an
analysis to
option,
that.
but,
Right.
Yeah,
but why
Would make
push
every-
everybody through that?
Yeah.
yeah.
you shouldn't have to. If you got 50 feet, then it shouldn't have to go to there. Shouldn't have to go
So,
do any of it.
but Andy, what you just said, the misidentification thing, that doesn't even go to the town.
Right.
You hire another person to go back and it's a second opinion, you're going to a different doctor and saying, is this really a wetland? And if it's not, the town doesn't even get to know about it until, someone does a land use complaint and they say, well, no, I got this, it said there's no wetland assigned by a certified wetland scientist. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think
Well,
Suzu's saying is just to be able to say, yeah, just stick with a 25-foot buffer and however
50-foot
setback and
setback.
not bother with any of this, yeah.
because
have the
if you as an
option if they
applicant,
needed to, yes.
if that's your desire, it's a lot less expensive, I think, to go that route than to go
Yeah.
through
Yeah,
getting this report, commissioning this report, so that then you can say, all right, sure, I could be closer to that wetland, but I don't want to be anyways, so why do that to me?
yeah, when does it tell you when you even have to do this?
It just said
Lots
lots created
created
after March 24th
Every lot.
Oh, that sucks.
New lot.
shall have a variable setback based on,
Cause like if you weren't anywhere near them, the wetlands, and why would you even bother going through this hoop at all?
Well, your site plan's gonna have to show them unless there's look, the wetlands are,
I mean, I guess if you're
500
gonna
feet
be
away from where my building envelope is.
greater
then it
than
just-
75 feet, maybe you wouldn't. Yeah,
I guess,
Whatever goes on warrant will get approved. That's been the standard with planning board warrant articles.
I think I get this though, so they're saying lots created, that's not like you own 10 acres and you're gonna put a house in. It's the developer coming
doing a
along trying to
subdivision.
fit everything in, and
Subdivision.
that goes on the subdivision plan. Yeah, so I mean, that's gonna be a nightmare. So if you got 10 house lots, you need to judge every one of these, every wetland on the whole entire subdivision. State what every one of those is, cause that setback's permanently on the plan.
Right, because it's not a one-size-fits-all.
That's a horror show.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I wouldn't wanna do that.
That's a So you folks know a lot more about this than I do, but the only thing I had was something Steve had already stated, that there's no weight to these, the scale, the points of the scale, they all appear to be weighted the same, as if they have the same importance, and they're probably, one item is probably more important than another, but it's not written that way.
Yeah. They should have a weighting, you know, when you do your natural heritage data check, you know, that's the other thing too, I don't think they're really, are the wetlands habitat, okay, are the wetlands habitat for a state listed, so they're gonna have to do a natural heritage data check for everything, but yeah, that should be weighted, you know, more if there is an endangered species there. So I think, that's kind of what you're thinking, is, I mean, there should be
Yeah,
some
they
weighting.
shouldn't all be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be weighting.
The endangered species stuff, isn't that a federal rule again?
No, that natural heritage isn't. So let's say Blanding's turtle in New Hampshire right now. State listed endangered, federal candidate, so it's nothing federally. Federal doesn't apply to a private landowner unless they're getting a federal permit. So it's not really gonna do anything.
All right, let's,
So Andy, were you looking to go to their meeting tomorrow?
absolutely not, but it's,
That was worded poorly.
Thursday night, they're all blurring together like for so many other people.
I mean, I get an email suffices, right? If you wanna give the opinion of going to the meeting.
Yeah, we've got some good points made tonight. I should share those with the board. I think Bruce was here to say, if you guys don't weigh in, this is going through
Right.
the way it is. So, maybe it's going through that way anyways, but,
No, I think it'd just be good
I'm-
if they heard the opinion, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
I'd throw out there a suggestion on behalf of the Conservation Commission that this is too hurried and don't do it. I could see a lot of unforeseen consequences. And then if they do choose to go ahead, you know, at least raise that weighting issue, and, you know, number 6 is way more important than some of the other ones.
right. Not to keep begging, but if you guys have anything you wanna share on this for our thoughts? Yeah, just state your name and that'll just suffice.
Dave Pratt, Winter Road. So, I saw the presentation on YouTube that Mr. Francisco gave, and my understanding, or the way that he proposed it, was that this wasn't the planning board coming and asking, it was Craig Francisco coming and asking. So, one individual on the planning board who works in this area sees something in another community, wants to keep up with the Joneses, doesn't make sense to me. He made a statement that it's not needed. That it isn't needed in this town, or that there's no current need. So, does this create a situation where developers wanna come in, build, make the town bigger? What's the consequences? That's my concern.
So that parallels what I was trying to say with the, you know, solution in search of a problem.
Right.
Please.
Well, it's just, yeah, that was my concern, is that I know that he's a surveyor within the town of Ware, and I don't know, it's just for a personal type of gain. Has someone reached out to him about subdivisions? Does he have a bulk interest in properties? Does he have property? I don't know. He did say that it wasn't a planning board issue, it was something that he wanted to do. He also said that there wasn't a need in the town of Ware, and he wasn't approached with a need in the town of Ware. So if you're gonna do that, and you're gonna start bringing in all these, builders to do subdivisions, you also have to look at the repercussions of that. I mean, if you go on the Ware Facebook page, people are very upset about their taxes and everything else now. You start bringing in a bunch of subdivisions, you're gonna have to start doing a lot of changes fast and drastically here. And our taxes are gonna have to go up. I mean, you're gonna have to accommodate that, because subdivisions bring in a ton of extra people. And, which I don't have a problem with, but if he wants to put this on the warrant, it just sounded like it was a he thing and not a general consensus, and that was a very big concern for me. And he did mention that his, you know, like he said about his property, and, you know, he has a little, a man-made overrun stream or something that runs in the back end of his property. We live over near there, so, you know, of course I did a little search on the tax map, and yeah, he's got about 60 acres back there, and I don't know if, I'm not speculating,
Right,
I'm
and
not saying anything, I'm not accusing anything, I'm just trying to figure out what's the rush, why now, what's not working now. It seems to be working, so if it isn't broke, why fix it at this point until we do have a need for it, and then have that conversation then. There isn't a need right now, and no one's brought up the need for it.
I think what we've seen, certainly what I've seen, is that Craig's a straight shooter, and this is something he's been thinking about for a long time, as somebody in the profession that deals with, you know, these buffers and setbacks from a design standpoint.
Absolutely, I respect his opinion on it.
So I don't think it surprises those of us who have known him for a little bit that he's, you know, wanting to do this. We've also seen, you know, I think sincere concern for wetland degradation across town from Craig. So I don't, you know, worry about ulterior motive, but I also don't think, as I've stated before, I don't see that this is I don't see that this is a problem where we are. I like simple. I think folks can understand simple and apply it pretty easily. So
No,
I think
just
you've
know
heard the
that-
commission say that we're not excited about what we're seeing here.
Well, I'm just afraid what's gonna happen is you're gonna determine whose decision it is, whether it's a good wetland or a bad wetland. And then, are you gonna start changing the aesthetics of the town of Ware? Like, are we gonna just start being like how Goffstown is, where they're just putting in subdivisions everywhere? And you're gonna lose the aesthetics of what people moved out here for. And I know towns have to grow and things have to change, and I understand that. And like I said, I respect what Craig is doing. I'm not saying that he's looking to do something. It's just last year they were trying to, and the planning board does this from time to time, and it's confusing to me. It's all sent at the last minute, at the 10th hour, they come up with something. It was at workforce housing last year. So I brought to, my concerns is they didn't even know what it was. And so I explained to him, you know, well, I searched what workforce housing is, so it got tabled, and now I'm wondering, is this another way to try to get subdivisions? And again, as like the workforce housing was last year. That was what I was trying to explain as far as a motive type thing. Is
Right.
it back again to the workforce housing? And that whole, is this a loophole? Is this a back way around it again? I don't know. It was just confusing to me why all of a sudden out of the blue he was trying to change the wetlands when it doesn't seem like it's ever really been an issue here. And it was, I guess, the verbiage of a subdivision and subdivision. So I guess I would, that's why I'll go tomorrow. I wanna hear more from him of what is he looking for? Because he didn't say it was a planning board thing, it was a him thing. So what is he specifically looking for? I didn't get enough from him when he approached you last time,
Thank you.
if that makes sense.
So this has been floating around for a while, cause like I helped actually write the original buffer ordinance, and after that, you know, I don't know how many times it goes to ZBA a year to get that, you know, for variance from that. I don't really think it's a lot, but that was perceived as a problem many years ago. And Bruce Fillmore, myself, and a couple people were on kind of a joint committee looking at this, and we never came up with a product like this, like what that Bruce wrote. So I mean, it's been on the radar for, you know, probably since the buffer ordinance was passed. So I don't think there's any real nefarious motive.
Oh, I don't, and I think
yeah.
you misunderstood how we were coming across. I think it's because last year where it was the workforce housing, and it was at the last minute, and they didn't really have an idea of what exactly that was, which it is subsidized housing, which, again, fine, if the town has a need for it, but it didn't sound like he said that we do, like we need a ton of subdivisions right now. I don't know that we do. I haven't heard that we do. And he did, and I guess what confused me is where he said when he approached it to you, it was for subdivisions. He did mention subdivisions.
Yeah.
So is it for just personal people that want to build a house, or is it?
It's for creating new lots.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way I understood it. So no, I don't think it's anything nefarious. I think he's a very nice man. I'm just trying to understand, is there like lots of properties that people are, you know, not him, he did, the only reason I mentioned him is because he did say his property falls under that, so I wasn't sure what he was pertaining to. I guess,
Yeah.
to clarify that, I'm not accusing him of anything in any way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that he brought his own property up, so that's why I brought it up, because he did.
I think all these, you know, the issues with just the costs for, you know, when they're talking about workforce housing, it's like, you know, like, you look at Duck Pond, there's $700,000 houses going on.
Right.
You know, tiny lots, right?
Right.
And, you know, it seems like in Ware that the new houses are pretty expensive compared to back in the day, you know, Ware was a pretty affordable town. But if you look at the costs of development right now, I mean, it's that Class 5 road cost, and that's actually exempt from this. So if a developer wants to punch a Class 5 road in, that none of this stuff applies to it. But I think that's where a lot of the costs are. And like right now, the only subdivisions you typically see are like where someone has enough road frontage to create a few lots off, you know, say you own 15 acres and you chunked it up into 3 5s. And then there's minor subdivisions and there's major subdivisions, and if you look at the planning board, ordinance on the town website, there are different levels of review for the both of them, so it's worth looking at.
Right.
So I think Craig's just creating kind of a headache on something that he sees as a problem and might not really solve anything, and it could actually be worse for some people, because now the buffer's bigger. So, yeah, I don't know,
No, I
And
appreciate you
we-
clearing that up, because like I said, I think it was the way he approached it that just made it sound like, where he said it was a he thing, not a board thing,
Yeah.
and it was something he wanted to see done, and then he brought up his own property. It just,
Yeah.
it didn't make any sense to me, the town need for it, I guess. I guess if he had explained more the town need and gave examples of why the town needed it, I would have understood it better. And I think that's where the confusion was, so I thank you for clearing that up. And I don't know if he meant to come across that way, but that's how it was said, and it just didn't make any sense to me. If he came saying, well, we all talked on the planning board and we all decide we need this, but he didn't. He did say to you guys, so I just wanted some clarification. I thought he would be here tonight, actually, so I could find out from him the clarification, so. I'm not in any way saying that he wants to do it for his property. He just mentioned his property, mentioned him, and it was his idea, so I'm just.
There's an implicit assumption in what's been proposed that more of a buffer is a better buffer. And I think sometimes, as a commission dealing with natural resources, there are assumptions made that perhaps aren't scientifically accurate. You know, there might be that the first 10 feet does 80% of the protection.
Right.
And the second 15 feet does, you know, another 5%. I don't know for sure, but I have some anticipation that perhaps, you know, going from a 25 to a 75 or a 50, I guess in this case the biggest one would be 37.5. I don't know that gains you much, another 12 and a half feet. So personally, I don't see that the additional complexity warrants is warranted or is going to result with that much of additional protection on more sensitive wetland ecosystems. Not-
Well, that's, like I
Not
said, I
seeing
was
it.
hoping that he was
Yeah.
gonna speak again tonight, so he could clarify, or I could ask him to better clarify. I don't know if maybe if there's been conversations that we need these subdivisions coming in and they've gone to the planning board. I tried to watch most of the meetings. I haven't heard anything, I haven't seen anything, so I didn't know if he was aware of something and he just didn't mention it, and,
Yeah.
that's, I was just trying to find that out,
So we
because,
just wanted to add our 2 cents, we'll be at the planning board meeting tomorrow.
yeah, we just wanted to.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys,
Yeah.
sticking through a lot of
Yeah.
intensity tonight. Draining. All right, have a good evening. All right, we've had a better discussion and a more thorough discussion of that than I ever anticipated. Went longer. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Town Administrator, there's nothing else from Planning Board tonight, right? Regarding applications or anything? Good. So nothing, no additional time of meeting items. I think there were a couple mail items came through, but I did not see anything noteworthy. Did anybody see anything noteworthy on?
You know, this is the one from PLC.
Yeah.
There was some, on their monitoring at Breed Brook and Eastman.
The trash was still on the property, that one?
Yeah, and then ATV usage in Eastman.
Yeah. Up off, coming in off,
Parker Hill Road.
Walker Hill, yeah.
Yeah, that's something to note, but it's, especially that ATV usage, it's,
What one had the waste,
49 Winterberry Lane, the dumping yard waste on the property.
Where's that?
by the backside of the lake?
Breed Brook.
Oh, that. That's a good one there, huh? That seems like a common problem.
yard waste. We get the yard waste and sometimes the manure.
Let's draft them a letter for the next meeting or something, so please don't.
Usually, it could be brush, could be sticks, what have you. But yard waste would, the biggest thing, I think, yeah, would be the grass and then the leaves, extra leaves, which. Yep. All right. AF draft letter, welcome back. Kids are taken care of. All right, so I will take a swing at a letter and we can look at that next time. Thank you, Mark. I just need to jump on a couple things I didn't get on the agenda before I forget about them. One thing was I handed out some guidebooks. Mark, would your work be aided by a new Conservation Commission member guidebook?
Yeah, probably would.
Okay. Probably should have got a few more of them. So, I also, for the guidebook, of course, gotta pay for it. So, I've got an invoice for $100, $20 a pop from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. I'm looking for a motion to pay for that out of the unrestricted, what I like to call the John Champion Memorial Grant Fund. We've got about, I think the spreadsheet said about $400 in there. I think we're on hold with budget, and it doesn't, I think it's a perfect thing to use the money that John Champy brought in through his volunteer efforts from one of the big guys. It was PSNH at the time, his employer.
So make a motion to pay the Are we paying the $100 to you? Did you pay?
No, I just got an invoice. I
Okay,
sweet
so-
talked Barbara and her staff to say, you know what, we can just invoice you.
Yeah, so to pay the $100 invoice to the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions for conservation manuals out of the unrestricted conservation account.
Thank you, Steve.
I second that motion.
Thank you. We got a motion made by Steve, seconded by Mark, just to get that squared away. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's all in favor. Yeah, and the second one, like I said, I just want to get this out there so I don't forget about it. Unfortunately, I didn't print it because I was going to read through it once more, and my head got full of all sorts of extra things today. But I did draft up an annual report for us. Frankly, we've never, I wouldn't say never, almost never have a great chance to look at it before it hits. Right, that's from 10 years ago.
Oh.
I'll get to that one later. So, what I'm gonna propose is, I'll just send that around to you. Please, give me any comments. Usually I get this out and don't get comments, and if you got no comment, just, appreciate the no comment, but if something strikes you as substantially untoward or whatever, maybe even give me a phone call, so we can talk about it. So I want to make sure, that's one of the few things the law says we're obligated to do, get an annual report together. Town has not told me deadlines on that, but
She did send it, but I
don't know that it went the right place, because I don't remember seeing it.
we're trying to get it out to everybody by February 1st.
Yeah. So, February 1st is gonna come before we meet again. And, like I say, I don't view it as something that we need motion and approvals and all that stuff, but I do take it seriously, and if somebody finds something that could be said a better way, fantastic, and I'll say this like I do every year. If anybody is ever itching to write that for us, I'd be glad to share the next one with somebody else. It doesn't have to come from the chair, it just needs to hit the town report.
Maybe poke us in September or October.
All right, I've
No, I
got,
said
somebody
us.
spoke up, somebody spoke up.
I heard it. Second that.
So good point. But the bottom line is, this has been 2023 was a wholly unanticipated and very unique year, and it's still continues on into 2024. And like I said, check out the writing, and let me know if there's something I can do better. So enough on that. Let's take it from the top. Jump right up to the December 13th minutes. I did a quick perusal a week or two ago, and I was glad to see him there. I don't recall seeing anything that jumped at me, but willing to entertain anything that anybody else may have found with a closer read. Or we can take a few
No.
minutes here.
Only thing I saw looking at it quickly at the beginning of the meeting was on line 21. It should say current ordinance treats all wetlands the same. I think that better gets at
Yep.
everything Craig was saying.
Yep. Thank you. That's a good change. On line 21, change the after treats to all.
I'm not sure what 103 was. The need for partnership is ongoing.
Yeah, that's an agenda item that Steve shared a couple months ago that we've never got to. And that's talking about, partnering with land trust on conservation easements, and so it's been an item that's rolled agenda to agenda at least 1 month, maybe we're looking at 2. So what would be the better way? Could say that item was tabled, or was not heard, or,
Just
Not
add that
addressed.
it's a land trust conservation easement or something in there, so you look back at the minutes, you'll have some idea what they're talking about. 'Cause I couldn't remember what it was about when I read it.
yeah, that was just an agenda item that we
Didn't
we-
finish.
we blew across without working on it. So frankly, I think the cleanest thing to do is just to strike 103. It doesn't,
We'll strike it out.
doesn't edify the minutes, so I'd recommend a strikeout. Everybody good with that? At some point, I don't think tonight, we'll get a meatier discussion when we have a chance for meatier discussions. I don't wanna roll, hopefully too much longer here. Anything else that folks see? All right, do we got a motion to approve those from someone?
I'll make a motion to approve as corrected.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And just for the minutes keeper, Steve had to step away from the table, so that is everybody except Mr. Nager in favor. All right. Minutes, check. First item under land management is just a state for public record. We got all the signatures, we got Board of Selectmen signatures on the contract, 1 year with Meadows End, so that is in effect for calendar year 2024. So that's good. That was something that happened since last meeting. Steve, we're jumping
I
under.
just had one
Yeah, go ahead.
question on the forester.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get clarification later. Can he still do small projects, like say we need some, no ATV activity in this area, and go out, put a sign up, they're still,
Yeah, the working prerogative is that we're not assigning projects that we anticipate will roll through
sure,
into 2025
Okay.
because of the uncertainty on that.
okay.
But, yeah, tasks, that take a little bit of time and are, quick hitters, I don't see why we can't do that. That's part of what we need for services.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Steve, can you remind us, if you recall, what the next step is, just for the Felt Farm? Do you remember the date on the showing?
Today.
That was today, that was.
Yep.
Did that happen as far as you know? Check, okay.
And then you had to attend to bid, and the bids are going to be opened at the next Conservation Commission meeting. If it gets canceled for some reason, we will go to the next Board of Selectmen meeting. Yeah.
Right, so that we don't kick it through or
Yep.
do a special, but we'd have to post accordingly. Naomi, the posting, is that just 24 hours?
Is that even a meeting if we show up with the board? Like, did the Board of Selectmen have to post tonight, or did we, okay. All right, so, so if we miss the meeting, then we're gonna post that we're gonna have a joint meeting with the.
Yeah, so we'd flip that,
Yeah.
so we'd have time to do that.
Yeah, well, basically, if the meeting's canceled, just to post the conservation meeting for the next Board of Selectmen meeting. Yeah. You just email that out.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to pop the reminder out so that we're working.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, well, I mean, that's what we
Together.
gotta do, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that's moving on. Garden property asbestos abatement. Are we to the point, Ray, where we need to set a date to say on this date, we're gonna dig into this, or is this something that,
Well, I brought some examples tonight of what we need to do to submit it so that it can go out to bid. I don't know if you wanna work, it's gonna take a little time. So what I did is I copied a sheet from a job that just got the low bidders on, just so you have an idea of how that goes and what it looks like here. And then I copied this. This is from the town of Hampton Falls, and they had to abate some asbestos in the floors at a school. And that's the results from that bid. The contractors that bid it. And so this is their specification. I don't think we have to be as complicated as it, but this is what the engineer, this is what these people have to comply to, is all of this. And I didn't have time to make copies for all of us. We really should go through this. And I don't think we need to include all of this stuff. This is a specification for everything.
all right,
For a
so,
Hero
so,
at the school, you said? Yeah, that's.
so this is something we could take away from tonight and look at and talk about next. So, let's use our town resources.
You wanna take this to you? I can get another copy for myself.
Yeah,
Gives us an idea. That's why I'm so confused. What do you put in a specification? So obviously, we're gonna have the report. That's part of the,
Well, I can take these two items, drop them on the copier, press,
yeah.
what do we need, 6?
Yeah,
And
there's 20 pages there. And I
Well,
can make
I-
another copy for myself.
I think we, all right, so I could do a lower number than 6, like 5.
well, do you have the electronic version of this?
I do, well, yes and no. I get it off of my,
Hey, why, I mean, I'm all in favor of using some paper and just skipping the email as much as we can, frankly.
No, cause if you got the electronic version, you can just cut and paste the relevant pieces into our spec. What are you gonna do?
Well, if
Scan it, you do have
I don't, it's probably a PDF.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
doubt
hard
it's
to
a Word
do
doc.
off of that service.
I mean, yeah, some of the
You're
PDF,
limited what you can get.
It depends.
I can't make copy of plans or anything, but I can make copy of pages.
Adobe Pro, you can,
Yeah, you can convert a
with
PDF
Adobe
to a Word
Pro,
document.
which I don't have for personal use. I'm pretty sure I don't.
See, the thing with me is I'm afraid to do anything. With everybody watching us, and we're gonna do something wrong.
I don't mind taking it on, just writing this for the next meeting if you want, I mean. it's up to
Done.
you guys.
Let's move on.
Second.
Can you just shoot me the,
Aye.
why don't we just just kinda bounce it back and forth?
Yeah.
That would be great.
All I wanna do is have a document that I could submit to the guy that made that front page, the construction summary. And then you got the Dodge reports, you got a lot of different places, they're construction job reporting agencies.
Mhm.
They're more than happy to take, if anybody has a job to put out to bid, they're more than happy to take it, doesn't cost anything. And they'll put it out there, and most of the contractors that subscribe to those services, that's how I get my work. We have all the information we need to bid a job and whatnot, and I can look to see what other people are doing. There's probably half a dozen asbestos abatement jobs that's been out there that
Who's got the report?
I
Rick, can you just email that to us? I know.
the report, I can't, email it? I haven't set up my town-wide email yet.
Okay, I'll scan them both and email it to
But
the,
here's the report that Naomi gave me, that I was gonna submit to the reporting agency. So this will be part of, when a contractor looks on that job, the job will come up just like that front page, and the status will be bidding instead of, low bidders. That one's low bidders. So it'll look just like that, but it'll say bidding, and it'll give a list of contractors who are bidding on it. But when you first look at it, you're gonna see that as a contractor, and you're gonna say, oh, I wanna bid on this. And they'll press on it, they'll see this report, and they'll see, we have to write down if we wanna do a site walk and all of this stuff, that has to be written down there, and it'll be on that page with a contact number. And then we'll proceed from there, and then we'll put in our specifications, in our thing, the master page will say when the bid is gonna be opened, you know, and how it's gonna be opened. And even though I look at this stuff every day, when it came right down to sitting down and writing it all, I go blank.
How does this get to that though? Cause don't we just put it out?
We have a bid tab on our front.
Well, the bridge design job right now is on the summary, I saw it today.
So what happens is we throw it on our web bid tab and all of those guys
They pick it up.
subscribe to it and they pick it up.
Okay. So don't pay for that service, we just throw it on our,
Put it on the website
Yeah.
that they can e-subscribe and get it from us,
yeah.
which is what we did with the forestry.
Yeah. And I've also talked to him over there, and he said, yeah, you bring me the information, he says, I'll put it out there for you. I don't know.
We should put it on our own as well.
Yeah, sure.
Let me,
So here's
yeah,
the
let's,
report.
let me go copy this stuff. Just copy right up to the meeting, or?
I don't know why that didn't go through with the minutes. It's like, well, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it needed to be rewritten, it's right there, that was the carryover.
It's the only other bid question, we had a good discussion about, do we wanna have, request two quotes, one just for the asbestos abatement and one for the entire demolition down to the slab?
Yeah. Well, the question
But
is.
didn't we want, we'd want to have the maximum number of, returned bidders, right? So if somebody just wants to bid on one aspect, would we wanna know what their bid on that one aspect, or do we want to only limit it to folks who bid on
Both.
the
We'd have to bid on-
remediation and the demolition?
So I guess we could, I mean, realistically, it's probably
But
gonna
if we
cost
got
the
somebody
boat.
who's great at demolition with an awesome price, but they're not so great at remediation, can we pair them up with somebody who's really good
Well,
at
you
remediation?
can have two separate contracts, I see it all the time on these types of things where people will bid out for materials and stuff, and different contractors win bids for different phases of a certain job.
Yeah, so there's folks out there that they'll do abatement and then the homeowner does the demolition.
So you.
So I'm saying we wanna capture the,
Right, so we can put it out to bid, asbestos abatement and demolition. And then on your instruction sheet, where they first get on there, you would instruct them, say, okay, this is how we want this. We want a price for the abatement only, and a price for demolition only, or a combination thereof. So there are bidders that might wanna bid only one of the two, some will wanna bid both of them. We have to be careful how we're gonna award that now. We don't want another thing like we're going through with
of course not.
the logging thing.
Hopefully
So
we're learning along the way.
I don't quite know, there's a way to do it, I just don't know, you know.
So there's so little asbestos in here, just looking at this, maybe we ought to skip that. And I don't know if, we need to, like, things have changed with Public Works and they're short employees now, but like, what's our chances of getting an excavator over there in the dumpster and
Well, you
knocking
know
it down
how we could
ourselves?
post it as a demolition job with asbestos abatement, because all the demolition guys I know do or have somebody that works for them that does the abatement part. And so if you put it out as a demolition job with abatement, a demolition guy will bid it and sub out the abatement. But we're gonna be paying for a demolition job.
Well, here's a problem why you don't wanna do that, cause if the price for the demolition with the abatement comes in really high, but the abatement is fairly affordable, then we can still talk about like burning it or demoing ourselves.
Or even making a deal with the logging company, say, hey,
Right.
come tear this down now,
Right,
in consideration for crossing on the land.
or letting them have our gravel or something like that, right. So, yeah, I think you gotta have just the abatement costs. I
And
think-
that's why I've been having so much trouble sitting down. I mean, when it comes to paperwork, I am not the guy. I do all the bidding and the billing in our company, but Donna does all the compliance reports and everything else, that is not my thing.
I'm good with taking a crack at this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just stick with the abatement.
Yeah, there's not that much there, looking at
Yeah,
this
right.
report, so,
Well, you know what, we could put it out just for the abatement, and then we could put out another one later on for the demolition part, after the abatement is done, if we wanted.
yeah, I think if we can do the, you know, public works, I mean, if we have an excavator, that's all you're really looking at, is excavator and dumpsters.
Once it's abated, anybody can go in there with an
Right.
excavator and
Right.
with a few dumpsters. I mean, if the conservation paid for the dumpsters, anybody could go in there with an excavator and just rip it down, put it in dumpsters. It'd take a day.
Yeah, 'cause back when I was talking with Benji about it, I mean, we were looking at using the, public works dump trucks and, you know, trucking it somewhere, but you know, having the dumpsters cuts a lot of manpower out, you know, just, then you just
bring
need
them in
just the
and-
operator.
An average size house takes 5 30-yard dumpsters.
5.
And then when we did a lot of demolition, when they did the Dunkin' Donuts on Eddie Road, we did all the demolition on them 3 houses. It took 1.5 100-yard trailers per house.
So if we are able to, if we abate it and then the fire department is interested, I don't know about the burning laws
I
now.
don't even know that there's much to burn there.
I could find a way to catch that on fire. I remember they burned a structure that, years ago, but yeah, things have changed a little.
Yeah, because of the shingles and all that
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah.
I don't like to put that up.
Demolition is easy though.
Yeah, I
really.
know.
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, it's
It
just,
doesn't take long for an excavator to take something down and load it.
Especially if we can leave a slab. You know, you don't need to get the heavy-duty equipment to bust it up in pieces and sort out the rebar or figure out all that deal.
you know, this whole, I mean, you look at the results, it's all non-friable, so it's like, you know, like you're dealing with that, that old siding there, what was the name of that stuff?
Transite board, I think.
Transite pipe and,
Yeah, and then the
siding, the asbestos siding that
the-
they used to have.
the shingles didn't have it either, it's the caulking,
Yeah,
and
caulking
glaze.
is like a rubbery stuff. I'm surprised it's in there.
most of it's really a trace. But there's such a tiny amount right there, I think we just take care of that and get rid of it, so yeah, I'll get this done.
Thanks for taking a crack at it, Steve. Thanks,
Thanks,
Ray, for
Yeah, no problem.
trying to wade into it and pull some stuff together, talking with Naomi about that. Appreciate that.
I'll scan that and email it back to you too. Just kinda bounced off it.
Great, thank you. Let's see,
Let's do that article before we forget about it.
yeah, and that dovetails into this need for partnerships to place properties under easement. It's a good tie-in, so this found a home.
Did you get the map and what?
I need to know which, there's a few town-owned properties.
No, it's the, oh, right there.
That's what I'm asking, this one?
All right, for the record, 10 years ago, voted on March 12th, 2013, approved by a vote of 774 in the affirmative, 547 in the negative.
So it's map.
Article 29 said, to see if the town would authorize the selectmen to enter into an agreement to purchase 137 acres of the Alma Schmid property on East Road for an amount not to exceed $600,000 in an effort to protect the rural character and natural resources of the town, and further to authorize the selectmen. And this is a point where I'm thinking it might be helpful for us to redirect and so update this article. This says to authorize the selectmen to convey certain conservation easements over a portion of the property to a qualified land trust, such as PLC or SPINIF. 20 acres of the property will be set aside for future recreational facilities and gravel pit for the town. Further, to raise and appropriate $380,000 to be offset by $50,000 from the Conservation Fund and $130,000 from the Mildred Hall Trust Fund. Those numbers changed, but that's what the article said. The remainder of the purchase cost will be offset by grants, didn't happen, being sought by the Russell Foundation. This is a non-lapsing article, will not lapse until the project is complete or until December 31st, 2018, whichever comes first.
We did hear from legal that it's non-lapsing. so that date was irrelevant.
Right, that piece became irrelevant, the purchase price is irrelevant, and those breakdowns are irrelevant. The relevant loose end that we wanna tie up is a conservation easement. And I think I would like to put that before the voters to consider tying up that loose end through a warrant article, with the support of the selectmen. So I'll read it again, what I propose. This would be the second article from the Conservation Commission. And, say, to complete the work initiated by the March 12th, 2013 vote on warrant Article 29, so it creates a tie to what was 10 years ago, shall the town authorize the Conservation Commission to convey the associated conservation easement over a portion of the property, including the existing hayfield and exclusive of 20 contiguous acres set aside as originally intended for ongoing gravel pit operations and future recreational facilities, to a qualified land trust such as PLC or SPINIF, subject to the final approval of the Board of Selectmen, and for such fees as may be requisite for such to come from the Town Conservation Fund or by other fundraising by the Conservation Commission pursuant to RSA 36-A:4, Section 1. Idea being, let's tie into what was done 10 years ago and get it done with the affirmative approval of the town vote, of the town majority of the town voters.
Is there a way to make more clear what the property is that's being referred to? I mean, I don't know what the requirements are for the legal language.
Yeah, there absolutely should be.
Got that for you over here. We're working on that. In my.
I don't think all the townspeople can just like off the top of their head remember what
Yeah,
Article
I missed something, key portions of Article 29 that set that, yeah.
We got it for you over there. So it's gonna, the suggested edit, or possible, would be over a portion of the Bank Schmidt property, map 408, lot 123.
Maybe on East Road.
Yeah, you could add that. I mean, the legal description would be 108, 123, but, yeah.
Banks portion of the Banks Schmidt property, go on.
On, it's 408-123 tax map.
All right, so in parentheses, map 408
408-123.
Lot 123,
dash lot
As an average
123.
town person that doesn't keep track of what we do and wouldn't know this from anything else.
On East
How
Road.
would they vote yes or no, not knowing how does that sway what's gonna happen?
We need to send out a mailer, so we can't tell someone how to vote,
Right.
but we can explain it.
You gotta explain what's going on.
We can-
Nobody really knows, even I didn't know this.
Well, it'd be discussed at deliberative session, and it would.
Only about 50 people
it-
voted.
Right. And then they
no,
got the
we're
town
anticipating this year, we're gonna have over 100, we'll see what happens, right?
Well,
There's
you
gonna
might-
be a lot more motivated voters this year. So, what this does, Ray, is it follows after, I would anticipate, as it has in the past, follows after our previous conservation article, requesting the 25,000, no, from town forest account allowance for future work. And then this one would come, and both of them would be zero tax impact, and both would be recognized as clearly as conservation articles, and the hope would be that support would be as it has been in the past. And there's an affirmation with doing two things. It's both closing the loop and assigning the task to where, I hope the planning board and town administrator agree with us, it would be better placed. The burden should be on us, but it's also assigning the stumbling block of the fees involved. Instead of going, well, we'll have to figure that out, it goes, well, this is what the plan is. It would come from Conservation Fund or other fundraising. So we could talk other options that might support that. And then we do the negotiating the conversations with the land trust. Spiniff has easements right next to it, that's probably why Spiniff was, you know, originally in the mix, or the one that we were thinking of. And we'd have to find out, are they interested in doing more business and where? And if so, what would the, you know, what would be involved? What would need to be done? You know, here's some language that's worked in the past, we'd work on the language, we'd work on the numbers, we get that figured out, and then we present that to Board of Selectmen saying, this is what we come up with, weigh in on it. And we wouldn't be trying to usurp authority from another town body, but to be the sanctioned entity to do the work that is natural to a conservation commission, should be anyways. That's the thinking on it.
So just for situational awareness, the deliberative is on February 3rd, before our next meeting. Hey, Naomi, so if the entire if a quorum is present at the deliberative, is that a meeting?
Selectmen are there, right?
Right, and the selectmen wouldn't acknowledge a separate selectmen's meeting, it's all umbrellaed.
Yeah, but there's nothing to stop you, all three or four of you from,
I like that. We don't do that sometimes.
Right, as long as we're not working.
By chance, you could run into 2 or 3, 4, 5 of you could end up someplace together, personally with the other halves or whatever. It's not a meeting.
well, you're there to
You can't say,
speak to
"Sorry,
the
we
article.
can't be here 'cause
Yeah.
we're meeting,"
I'm not sure, yeah, just,
I don't think, you're not gonna say, we as a conservation, the finance committee posts their meeting, cause they may have to confer on an item. We post ours together, cause we're there.
but I mean, we need to talk about tonight, like, presumably Andy or someone is gonna have to get up and speak to this article and take a position. Yeah.
You've spoken on articles, you've
Yeah, I have, so we
Well,
just
I
do
think
it.
the more the merrier, the more that would
Yeah.
speak to it, even if we're saying the same thing. In this case, in this venue, I don't think there's any,
sometimes that's asked of not to keep the meeting short.
well, then if that was asked, then that would be our response, of course. So,
Okay. So it's on the 3rd, and then, so we've got a meeting after that, and then, so there's gonna be a huge Facebook campaign against this thing. Guaranteed.
all right, so let's say it's not the will of the voters, okay? Then we're back to square one.
No,
It
it's,
do- This wouldn't cancel the whole concept of an easement on the project, it just doesn't update it, in my view.
no, the other one does, though, the petition. So the thing is, though, to be successful with this warrant article, we've gotta put a mailer together for the next, so someone needs to write that
Well,
up.
like when we did the purchase from Frank Ferrante,
Yeah.
there was support, and support did great things like buy signs and print up signs, and we put up signs, but, we didn't fund them.
We
There,
did,
there was a good campaign of support for that cause, for that proposal.
we funded a mailer.
A mailer, all right, I was thinking more, of the sign.
Protection of that field.
Pardon?
You can't write on that warrant article that it would be for the protection of that field.
We're not
Says-
trying to hide anything at all.
No,
We
it
would-
covers it up, it
says
covers
We,
it.
we would
Including the
say,
existing-
East Road, we'd say Hayfield, we'd say Article 29,
Well, you got 30-something acres.
but what I missed, and what really should have been there and is now, as suggested, is that the easement is over a portion of the Bank Schmidt property, map 408, lot 123 on East Road.
All right, so I guess what I'm saying, though, to be like real clear, for the next meeting, someone really needs to write up something that's postable to Facebook somewhere, and there's still that account for Bank Schmidt, I don't know who owns that. And then really need to get something out that says, if these 3 petition warrant articles are super bad idea. We can't tell you how to vote, but, you know, there's one to defund the Conservation Commission.
Right, so you're trying to set up, let's come to next meeting with some additional items to agree upon
Yeah, you
in
gotta be ready.
February, because the vote in March will happen before the
March meeting.
March conservation meeting.
You just have to be careful with how you're funding it. If you're funding it with town money, you have to be extremely careful.
Exactly, you can't tell people how to vote, you can put an
You
educational,
have to be extremely straightforward.
Yep.
You can't urge them and tell them it's a bad idea.
right. But you can put, you
You
can,
have to stay neutral and let people.
Well, when we bought signs that said, save open space, vote yes on such and such, that we didn't buy those. A private entity bought those.
no, the mailer that we paid for was exactly what you said. So I mean, like, you know, you could say, these great things were done with this town conservation account over the last 10 years.
You're saying you gotta walk a fine line.
Right, right. Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, that's an action item to be prepared. If we don't have it, we don't have it, and it doesn't support the effort. But you're right, Steve, thanks for pointing it out. The opportunity is in the next 4 weeks to take what comes out of deliberative, coming right up, or hopefully be prepared to inform people at deliberative, so we have to think about, you know, whether anybody, you know, can, I don't know how that works. Is there a way to set up like an information statement? If you have questions, come talk to us, sort of thing? Or whether it's,
Without getting into hot water.
I'm not sure. I thought back when we did the original Article 29 at deliberative, Ian or somebody was set up as a, you know, this is what we're proposing, you know, here's our little table presentation of what's involved. So I think I've seen those in the past, maybe it's way past.
I remember
don't know.
Pat hanging stuff up on the wall years ago for some of the articles too, like maps and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but.
Are we able to do that, Naomi?
I mean, the police chief put up information.
Right.
He didn't man it.
Yeah.
That was, you know, 'cause there is a pipe usually that goes through section, you can line and all that. 'Cause I don't supply food.
No cantina opened. We had that once upon a time and didn't. Yeah.
So now everybody knows this privilege.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the problem, right, is do you have another meeting to try to prepare something before the deliberative, or do you?
Well, you could have a special meeting and meet upstairs.
Yeah, work session.
You could have a work session upstairs. I mean, 'cause this room's pretty much booked solid, isn't it, Naomi?
Depends on when. I mean, it's not every night. Friday's always available. But you defeat the purpose of moving me upstairs if that's what you have is okay. You're thinking you want your information out to people. Upstairs wouldn't be well.
Let's, I mean, it could be, frankly, it could be very simple. It could be our, hopefully, I don't know what's up here, our conservation side at a table with folks, you know, sitting at it, you know, conservation, come talk to us. You got questions? We can talk.
What is the deliberative session that you guys are referring to?
Great question. It's a legislative session of town.
Okay.
So it is where you,
To go over
where
all
you
these
look at every
proposed
warrant
articles.
article,
Okay.
you get the opportunity to weigh in on it as a speaker.
Mhm.
You can suggest changes, you can voice support, or you can voice opposition. You can have a vote to any change that's accepted. I think you have to, the town moderator manages it, but, you know, you would have to confirm what the suggested change is, and then you put it to a vote of the folks who are there as representatives of the town. No executive function. Well, the selectmen sit up in a table, usually up a couple steps up in the cafetorium. So selectmen usually a selectman will stand up and read the article, and then it's open for questions, and you get to consider it, and once your consideration's done, it's closed for consideration, goes on the warrant.
Who is our town moderator?
Elaine, isn't it, Meany? Oh, okay, Elaine did her last one last year, so. Eileen, sorry guys, my bad.
And so that whole story is because we're an SB2 town, and we got away from a traditional town meeting where all that stuff is transacted and the vote actually occurs. So it's a
Thank you, Steve. Yeah.
two-date
Two-step
process.
process, yeah.
So there's the deliberative, there's the finalized warrant, and then we go and like vote like you're voting for a presidential election or something. Where an old traditional town would, you know, you're all sitting there and you have votes and it just goes on.
Gotcha.
It's unwieldy.
Yeah.
So the first part captures that back and forth between, and gives the town folk a chance to debate it. Okay. And wrapping this one up,
Well, so I have
guess- go ahead.
some questions here. So I don't disagree with the language here, you know, update what the property is. But just some questions I have, how essential is it to have this on this year's ballot? Is there anything contending that this wouldn't happen? Yes, okay,
yeah, it's to balance the vote.
okay.
There's a petition article that we don't know for sure, it's subject to additional review, that may go on the ballot that essentially says, Conservation Commission, give up the hayfield, we're gonna build ball fields.
And then, it's just
But-
obviously the timing's always unfortunate, but with the select board, I don't know that they've gotten a final answer that includes our answer from our input to legal regarding contiguous acres. That might be something.
What
we-
was received, what was received from Laura said it didn't matter.
Right, but.
It was not legally, there was nothing in the article or it's stuff that she saw that she thought was legally binding.
Without some documents that we have
We
been
don't-
trying to provide, right?
In the works.
And I just asked that in the sense of getting
So the-
support from the select board.
Purpose of this is to be abundantly clear in resetting the baseline here. And that's why it's saying something I wish we had, and frankly, if we had said, hey, I want to revise, back in the day, 10 years ago, Article 29, to say 20 contiguous acres, everybody would have said, yeah, that's what we're thinking, of course. It would have been tighter language, and we wouldn't be talking about that aspect of it. And maybe with that one word contiguous, this whole shooting match would be off the board.
Agreed.
But
Yep.
it wasn't, and I am 95% sure that had that simple clerical edit been made, all parties would have said, oh yeah, that's good, thank you, we got it. But it didn't occur, and this is the thing, so often it doesn't occur to you what's gonna happen in 10 years. And what happens in 10 years is people forget, or the people who remember move off in other directions usually.
And there's a lot of new people in town.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is even the validity of the whole warrant article, because none of that really went down that way, you know, so the funding didn't happen.
So this is another cut to try to be clearer, to try to, like I said, do a reset. And the reason I included, this is a good point to think about it, or just at least get it on the record. The 2013 Conservation Commission Annual Report is, we had roughly the sixth, 1 out of 6 paragraphs more or less, of that report was dedicated to this project. And in that write-up, we said the Schmidt Banks Conservation Project, a large, important land conservation project at the north end of Melvin Valley, continues to move towards fruition. In August 2013, the Conservation Commission pledged a total of $180,000 the bulk of the conservation fund balance in support of this multifaceted project. In addition to the existing field and forest conservation value of the project, the town expects to realize the benefit of additional sand and gravel resources on the property and ultimately additional recreational field development of the reclaimed gravel pit. It's a new day, that was the old day, but in my opinion, there was clarity back then, what we were moving towards. And we just need to finish the deal. And this is a way to counterbalance and say, hey, voters, does this sound like a good idea to you or not? And if there's been a sea change and the vote is, I don't like that, then that's what the vote is, and that's the will of the people, and this concept goes away. It does not tie up the loose end, and we take that up with the Board of Selectmen and others at that point. What are we gonna do? And then we've, frankly, you know, we'll know all sorts of, the way all sorts of the other pieces have fallen, or, and we adjust at that point. There's a possibility that you could have two articles and both could pass, and one could say, we like recreation, and one could say, not a bad idea to hold on to the hayfield. You could have both. And that would, frankly, express what is pretty common. Folks want both. Folks like both. Or maybe you find, you know, one's more palatable than another, and then there's some guidance offered. Again, we don't know what's gonna be on the warrant. We don't know whether this is gonna be on the warrant, but I think it's a strong move, affirmative move. And I would urge you all to, you know, ask questions on it, or as you have been. But if we don't have any more questions or discussion, we also wanna keep moving. All right. There's other aspects that we can keep talking about. We haven't finished that concept of preparing and informing, be it deliberative or beyond, but let's deal with this language here. Any further? Actually, any motion to move on this article?
So what are the final modifications before we make a motion to move on it?
So, third line, between the and property, we insert Banks Schmid property. So I guess we want to eliminate the second property. So it's after the, before including. So it would read, convey the associated conservation easement over a portion of the Banks Schmid property, map 408, lot 123 on East Road, including the existing hayfield. Nothing else changes.
I'll make a motion to submit that to the Board of Selectmen for consideration on the 2024 warrant.
Second that.
Any further comments? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna
Abstain? We got one
because
abs-
I'll be voting as a selectman.
All right, so we got Zuzu, Mark, Andy, Steve, Mike, and Ray. Yes. Sherry abstaining. All right, further discussion on the concept. All right, let's do that. We dealt with, all right, so this was under the bullet need for partnerships, and we'll see to place properties under easement. Let's keep kicking that one down the road. You okay with that, Steve? The more generic discussion?
Of,
The need for partnerships to place properties under easement.
yeah,
That's regarding additional or beyond Bank Schmidt concepts. We dealt with the request, the town forester RFP development regards, moving towards completing the task by the end of the year, which is to bid, the next iteration, the next version of, contract forester for the town. Anything to work on with that, Steve, at this point, or,
no, we need, once the new board of selectmen's elected, we need to meet with them and talk just roughly about expectations on the RFP. I mean, I'll dig out the old one there for next meeting.
okay. All right, so we're working towards, April on that. All right, Steve, on the legal assistant request for proposal development, any thoughts for us?
You can
Here.
hold that now that we're gonna deal with the town council.
Yep. So,
I think this is a solid draft. I just suggest everybody just read it and see if there's any problems, if we need to try to use it, but it sounds like that got straightened out maybe.
so we're gonna hold off on anything further for the moment. Any further thoughts on that one, commissioners? Okay. And we dealt with the next one. Any other land management concerns that folks have that we ought to discuss?
Gotta pay a couple of bills from Edison.
Yeah.
So I think you can just tell her to pay him, I think.
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
I will do that. Nothing very substantial, but need to catch up on that again.
One question on that.
Yeah.
You kinda said something about it before, but I still don't fully understand. Under the contract, Meadows End's paid by the stumpage for the administration and prep for the timber sale. Why do we pay-
Administration of the timber sale, prep is, I think, a little bit,
Well, maybe I'm
bit
interpreting
different.
wrong.
Yeah, that got crossed out on the contract. You got it with either? The
Yeah.
one that got signed?
Well, it's just, when you read fee schedule, it says, forest harvest project management, project preparation and project administration. So he's paid on the logs and the pulp chip, and then he's paid 20% of the gross stumpage for the project administration. So why are we paying hourly for the am I misunderstanding what preparation is, or? That's,
Is that the
this is
actual?
the signed one.
Yeah. So that one statement got taken out of it, that,
So I'm looking what preparation and administration is, what's included.
yeah. You know, I think we need to get that clear on
Yeah.
the next one, but that has been the deal all along with them. I mean, we pretty well understood that. I mean, we've had that conversation, and that one, and now that item's not crossed out of here, that was crossed out. Forest harvest preparation, reconnaissance of woodlot, location and document, so, I mean, they talk about it here, what that is. Selection and marking of trees, measurement, summary, harvest contact prep between the town and logging contractor, project supervision, project accounting, so they didn't list in there, the, showing. So if you wanna have the showing included, I mean, you'd have to write that into the next agreement to keep it level, and that should be clear, whatever we expect one way or the other.
Exactly.
So it's, I think we should do that, but yeah, I mean, we've discussed that, that's not in there as far as the actual showing. In the,
Well, that was the showing, but it was preparation.
I don't think they're counting that as physical, preparation, I think, is marking the documents, but the showing they're charging.
So one of the bills we just had here.
Yeah, I
that was
haven't
there.
read them yet.
Yeah, just came,
Yeah.
just told them, here in the last day or so. It was today and, or yesterday they came and the,
Yeah.
Yeah, they just came,
Just want to be clear that, you know, he needs to be paid what he needs to be paid for work done. But if he's paying him a percentage, then it's percentage. If we're paying him hourly, we're paying him hourly. I just want to be clear that we're paying them both, you know, that it's one or the other. I don't know what they're doing.
They're on your head.
So right here, it's got rebid of Felch Timber Sale bid and noticing to contractors in
Yeah.
town. Necessary time to attend management matters involving town forest needs per FSA. So yeah, I mean that, they charge us an hour and 15 minutes for the notice. So I mean, they didn't clearly include that. I mean, I would say in the next, that's definitely been the discussion point that we've had. They definitely, all along, they've been doing it this way. I think we've understood that. So I think in the next contract, if you want to have that included, you know,
But isn't there a natural breaking point? Because everything's preparation up to the bid being awarded.
Right.
Once a job starts, there's a different.
There's administration.
There's a different set of things that happen that are paid
And
through.
they have it as preparation and they have it as administration. It's preparation for the
I
timber
would-
sale?
I would say administration. I don't think preparation, the word preparation should be in there. I think that's just a word that needs to be expunged.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to understand it.
yeah, I mean, we need to write in the next one, like, if you want to have it in there under the percentage.
But that makes sense though, because we ran into this whole thing, because we're saying some of the preparation stuff you don't get paid for until the harvest is underway, and then you start receiving payment on the stumpage. But what if that harvest never happens? What if it's just for weather concerns? So now we're stuck in that bind of saying, well, they did work, but they're not getting paid for the work because there's no harvest. Whereas
Okay.
if that stuff is,
But the deal with that would be then, we would pay the hourly, but he doesn't get percentage.
right.
When this harvest did happen, he wouldn't get the percentage, because we've already paid him for that.
You know, the problem is the hourly's not really a good deal for them.
Yeah.
You look at their hourly rate, it's not that good. The money for the consultant foresters in that harvest percentage. So they're not gonna let you out of it for just that. I'd be shocked. You know, that would've been a headache if we got that
Yeah.
far along and like, to monetarily figure out what that was really worth. It's worth way more than the hourly. You know, it was like, I mean, say like in the auto business, right, you get so much for parts.
Right.
You know, your markup, that same kind of thing, you know, you couldn't, if you were just paying a mechanic just the hourly for the repair, it would have to be higher, cause they were making so much off of the parts too.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
But if I go in and I quote you a job at a fixed number,
Yeah.
it's a fixed number.
Yeah.
I don't go back afterwards and tell you I'm gonna bill you this hour because I spent so much on getting that part cleaned or getting that cleaned. I quoted you a price.
Yeah.
And that's what the price is.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it, is
Yeah.
the fact that you quote us a price, you're taking percentage.
but you also have shop fees thrown in there. You also have other things that are, you know, outside of that grouping that are legitimate expenses to you, and one job might have more of them, or there might be a peculiarity of a particular, or are you saying those shop fees are linked
They're linked.
Linked to the
to,
total
to the
amount that you
project?
quote.
Yeah, it's a link to an amount.
Well,
So, all right, so you're saying those are not variable, they're just,
Right.
I think we
but
understood
it's,
this.
but it's another, it's like, well, why have a separate category of shop fees? Why not just roll that into the,
Because that, you know, if you wanna get into shop fees consider all this stuff of, if you're working on a car and you need a little bit of brake clean to clean that part. I'm not charging a whole can of brake clean. So you break it out over the cost.
I think there's some
And I understand, but,
similarities in the industry, and we gotta make sure, yes, that we're not,
and I just understand, and I just wanna make sure. See, we're billed for everything, and then it's percentage. I just, you know, either, some of that's part of the job if you're taking it on, that you're taking percentage. So this is what goes with percentage.
I think the next agreement, we should amongst ourselves collectively be sure of what we're asking for so that everybody understands that. But in this case, you also think this is the second showing for the same sale, so I mean, that wouldn't
Which we
really.
already paid for them.
Yeah, we paid for that first one.
Right.
But that has been the way that, you know, we've understood that they've done business. But if you wanna tighten that up and you wanna go that direction,
Yeah.
but we wanna convey it clearly to all the
Correct.
bidders.
Well,
whatever-
I just going by what the contract read
Yeah.
and how I interpret the contract. I didn't have anything to do with writing the contract or anything else. That's how and that's how I interpret this contract. And as a board member and town resident, I was just looking at the fact that in business, for me, that's almost double dipping.
Yeah, it's a
You get
very,
percentages and then you're getting hourly.
yeah.
It's one or the other. You take it as it's a per hour job, and we have jobs that it's by the hour. I can't quote you a number because I don't know what it's gonna be. It's gonna be by the hour. Brake lines usually.
Yeah.
It's a by the hour job. It's time and materials. Okay? And that's what you accept.
Yeah.
If I quote you a job, then you accepted that job at that price. If I do it in an hour, and it's a 3-hour job and I made money. If it took me 5 hours, it still didn't cost you any more.
Yeah, and I just think we, you know, as far as understanding what was in the
Yeah.
quote, you know,
Yeah.
so we need to just clarify that.
Yeah.
I mean, for the amount of money, you know, you're gonna see, I'm sure, a couple hours for the actual,
Showing.
yeah, and then whatever it was to do the award.
Yeah.
So, I don't, well, actually, we should get the award documents, so yeah, whatever they're showing. So it's not a big amount of money either way. But yeah, I mean, I think we should straighten that out, and, you know, on the.
Yeah, just need to clarify
I
it.
think the administration should be, it's only stuff after the award, and the job then goes into another phase.
Let's just write that in the, you know, when we do the RFP.
And what results from that, you know, can we argue that there ought to be a lower percentage on stumpage, or can they argue that there ought to be a higher labor rate? You know, there's a negotiation that can happen there
Yeah.
Correct.
to balance things out, but yes, we wanna be absolutely clear on the language on just what is what. Yeah. All right, I think, we're jumping down, we've done the mail under other business. I think we've got confirmation that the town forest account warrant article, the 25,000, operating for contract forestry work has hit the warrant. Our access to that's all been taken care of. What we haven't hit, is, we've been hit by we haven't touched base on. We've hit by a slew of 91A requests. They are what they are, and we try to respond to them. But we're having difficulty getting our conservation account emails out to a reasonable fashion. So somebody asks for 6 months worth of emails, you know, for me that could be over 100 emails. And there's each of us receiving a Conservation Commission CC on it, or Commission Conservation at wherenh.gov. So now we're generating a lot of repeat stuff, and we could use some administrative support so that we can easily package these things. Just so everybody's square on this, that email@warenh.gov, that's only used for town business, only used for conservation business. That's all subject to, right to know. And Naomi, how can we get tech support so that we can reasonably, get that information to, folks who are requesting it? So for instance, your
So, can I just say what's going on with mine? So, there's two different views, is like, so when I looked at the Outlook traditional view, cause on the regular view, a bunch of stuff is grayed out, so the service that we have is, it's not like Outlook, it's on your computer and there's a POP server or whatever and it's dumping on your computer, it's all web-based, right? And I just wonder if that's a licensing issue or what, because say if I'm on, my work email, I can select every email if I want. I mean, not that I could do every email, but then I could say print and it'll throw them into a PDF and I could hand you that whole PDF package. Alright, so that was my Yahoo, my personal, and I had an antiquated, Outlook. Yeah, so that was old stuff and I will never touch my computer. So what I'm seeing right now is we might not be paying for something, or there's something wrong with the Outlook that it won't allow me to I can't select all those emails and do anything with them at all. The only thing I could do with you right now is to select each individual email and send them, which is ridiculous. So there should be a way to select all those, like you could dump them in a file, you could dump them in a PDF, but there's something not working. So that's why, can we call the tech support so that, that they can go in there and look and see what the problem is. I don't know if it's something we're not paying for or just what's going on. Or if they can just go in there and pull them.
I've tried, I haven't been able to do that.
You
Select
haven't?
multiple emails and send those out.
You have or have not?
I haven't been able
no.
to.
Right.
I would not if I didn't have to. That's the only reason I'm sending them like that.
Yeah, I know, but I honestly don't know the system.
Yeah, so something's not right.
I'm not a fan of it, but that's what it is.
And it's way better just to compile it on our end.
To have your calendar, and get it, it's just, I find it a little bit hard sometimes.
Are you dropping to you used to have like a virtual Outlook, or are you on, was the 365 or whatever, or you still have like an actual installed version Outlook with, it's a POP server or whatever, and it's dumping it to your computer?
Do you open Outlook as an any kind of application, or is it just having a?
No, it's over.
Yeah, that's a whole different deal. So there's something, we can call the IT provider.
It might be Microsoft has limitations on their web-based Office as opposed to the full application. There are limitations.
So when I look at the traditional view of Outlook, right, that looks like, say, my one at work,
You get full access to everything.
everything's there, but a bunch of stuff is grayed out. Like print is grayed out for some odd reason.
On the,
On your work one?
No, ours here. So like,
Print, and then, you can't do that, it's grayed out.
so like the work one, I mean, I could print it, like, you could print a PDF, and you probably have, I don't know if Outlook, because like some Microsoft stuff will convert to a PDF. I don't know if Outlook, if you need to have a Adobe license, but there's no reasonable way to do this right now. And the more town emails I get, I mean, you're gonna get into the thousands, you're not gonna forward every email, so if,
You don't have the contacting town council policy.
No, can, here's another,
Don't know, I mean, I find it cumbersome when we're to know what's on our own, because everybody sends me all the emails, that file you sent with 1,397 pages, and how long it took to read back the first one page,
it's insane. I mean, that's what I've been saying for years, I didn't wanna keep using
How do
Yahoo.
you-
I have the redact button on the Adobe, which is nice, because you can do it
cell phone number. So each time I had to go back and let it bring back that search method on the text string. And then they got it without everything flag.
Yeah.
Your personal information, but it took a while because it was 1,397 pages.
I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Just,
But I haven't mastered it, it is cumbersome, I know.
no.
Print works. I printed all that stuff off the email today.
Now, can I,
Wonder why it
can
wouldn't
I ask
work
you a
for me.
question?
He's asking about forwarding stuff.
No, but he asked it about print as
Well, yeah,
well.
I couldn't do anything with it, so it's great.
Multiple emails?
Yeah, print,
Yeah.
did you select multiple emails and try to
No, I
print them?
just went and grabbed the
Yeah.
the attachments and stuff.
Selecting them all.
It might, I honestly think it might be a limitation of the web-based server.
Yeah, I mean, what you'd like to do, be able to select them all, print the PDF, you got one document that has, you know,
With-
potentially 100 emails, 100 and whatever.
How did you zip file it?
I just went through, I took like 10 or 15, whatever, emails at a time, checked them off, then I went in forward, and forward something, it's under the forward thing.
Okay.
And then, I tried to limit it because sometimes it would come up and give me a box saying they were too big. But I tried to hold it back, you know, when I was doing it, so,
You made zip files for everything and sent them off.
yeah.
Can we just call the IT guy?
Forward all, I think it was.
See what
The
the
ones that
problem
I checked, I think it was forward all when I did it. I didn't do anything special,
I don't see why you couldn't, I always just email him and then he gets back to me.
but I'm limited on size too. I mean, if you get something too big, if I couldn't have connected all of those together in a zip
I can
file.
show you the phone number to the office.
Yeah, if you can shoot me his email and his phone number. I mean, the town owns that email, so I don't care if he goes in there and grabs them all. I'm
Well, here's the
perfectly good
thing,
with that.
though, could we at least cut down the burden on everyone by saying, look, everything that's sent to conservation, town
Yeah.
administrator gets CC'd on.
Right.
So yet, you know, 90% of these 100 files are gonna be CC, conservation.
They're all sending me the same thing.
Right, so
Right, you
why
just
do we have to send that to you? Cause you already,
I sent it to you because they asked me to send to everybody. That was the request I wanted to know. And if you, I know, it's cumbersome, I just don't.
but can't we make a decision to say, look, I already,
Be able to grab
I already have everything that has CC conservation on it, or is sent to conservation. Whether you send it, or whether you receive it from conservation. That's already in the bucket, and if we take that bucket away from the volunteers around this table, sure, the chair and vice chair might have 10, 20 things, but we have 10 and 20 instead of 200 or whatever, or thousands.
Yeah, then you gotta,
And then we can grab those remaining,
Yeah, 'cause when I do in this, I used to.
and then all the information is shared with the,
Search bar a lot.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll say search, you know, a few words that I would like to know, and then I get them, but I've never tried to group them and send them somewhere, you know what I mean?
so the all-encompassing right to know like that though, Andy, that's more cumbersome doing what you're saying than what I'm saying. If you can just select everything, go, here you go, you know, who
Which is
cares?
what you did, I think, in your Yahoo, right?
Yeah, well, no, I had to search on everything with like Meadows,
Yeah.
Jeremy Turner, was Jeremy Turner specific. Yeah, so that's however many years of dealing with,
All right, let me know what you find out, Steve.
yeah, so if you got a number and an
These seem to
email-
be the way of the future, and we'll probably be seeing them.
Well, he just says to me.
Cool, thanks.
All right, I'm running out of things on the list.
Good, we're 20 minutes over.
Yeah, I know. Salem, you came back, anything you'd like to share with us, or you're just soaking it all in?
Turn it back on when I got home, it sounded exciting.
Then I showed up, and it's what it usually is, pretty
Awesome,
dull.
yeah.
Sends my head spinning every time. Anybody have anything else for tonight?
Nope.
All right, let's hit it for 10:22. Who's got it?
Motion.
Steve, second.
Second.
All right.
You did all the seconding today.
I did,
All in favor, say aye.
Really, everything?
Aye. We adjourn at 10:22.
That's awesome.
Hit the switch.
Hit the